Welcome to What's in a Game. On today's show, they finally did it. The Denver Nuggets have gone on a 10-game win streak. Can they ride this momentum to a top playoff seed? We discuss the philosophical questions that will face Denver in their playoff matchups. And finally, we'll decide which is the biggest question each player on the Nuggets has to answer going into the playoffs. Stay tuned. Welcome back to What's in a Game. I'm Grace Jean here with my co-host Will Jones. How are you doing today, Will? Given that we did not set off nuclear Armageddon a couple days ago.
Oh my God, yeah. That is a whole other episode topic, I guess. But it was either that or the Nuggets win a 10-game win streak. And I was not betting on the Nuggets 10-game win streak because it seemed like the world would have to end before that would ever become a reality.
Honestly, that would have been really something, right? If that happened right before, and then like the game gets canceled, and they can't.
Yeah, but thankfully we got the better side of that deal, and the Nuggets actually did it. And it's been a running joke amongst, us fans and friends, and Voya, who you actually did see in Portland recently, and friend of the show. And that win streak has been bothering him and many Nuggets fans for a long time, because you'd think with Jokic and how great he is, we should be able to get a 10-game win streak. But, the NBA is hard to win, and things happen all the time. And it seemed like a trap game, the Memphis Grizzlies, G Leaguers. And we were losing at halftime, and we pulled it off. So
there was one Grizzly whose name I knew on the floor, and he's a rookie.
Fair enough. I'm just glad we did it. I didn't think it would happen, but like we said, we started. I did that 4-game win streak prediction, and had we beat the Grizzlies earlier, this win streak would have been even longer, and the schedule was laying itself out to look like we were going to get a lot of wins. And even though we didn't beat the Grizzlies that time, we got the 10-game win streak, and we really are putting together a solid showing for the end of the season.
Yeah, I want to talk about a little bit more about the win streak itself. But before we do that, please do us a favor, hit the like and subscribe buttons. Really helps us out with the algorithm as we try and grow the channel, especially as we head into the playoffs, the playoff push, as they say. So just to echo what you were saying about the 10-game win streak has been this, the elusive 10-game win streak has been this thing that seems to have been really gnawing at Nuggets fans. I was telling my fiance about it last night because I'm like, okay, they finally did it. And he's like, oh, was this like fuel for the haters? And I'm like, no, nobody talks about this outside of Denver Nuggets fans. Like I've never seen like an Embiid stan or like a Shea stan be like, Jokic has never gone on a 10-game. Like, no, it's really been this very niche, not niche, but like a thing that has been very much contained to within the fandom, which makes sense. Like, who tracks other teams' win streaks other than to say like this team is currently on a hot streak right now, right? So I wanted to just sort of get your perspective on why that like round like double-digit number was such a thing before. Well, before they actually got it. Like, why did it feel so? Why was it like this incessant thing that people wanted to kind of tick off?
Yeah, I mean, a 10-game win streak is kind of an arbitrary number when you think about it, but it being a double-digit win, like 10, it's a very good, significant round number in a way. And the fact that it just never happened, I don't know how many 9-game win streaks we had.
They've had 2.
Okay.
Someone posted about this. I've been present like in the fandom for both of them because they had one. They might have had 2 in 23-24. They either had 2 in 23-24 or they had one that year, and I think one the year after, which was last season, which is kind of crazy. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But I was at least present for one of them. There was one in 23-24, And I believe it was broken by a blowout loss, I think at home to the Thunder in a game that AG missed. He was out for a couple weeks with a shoulder thing that season. And I remember everybody was like gearing up, like, oh yeah, we're finally gonna get it. That was when it first kind of like hit my radar as like a thing within the fandom, like a part of the sort of lore of Nug life as I was, gathering information about like what it means to be part of this fandom because I was still pretty early on. Um Kind of funny that it seems to be the Thunder that always kind of steal that thunder. Um yeah, but they finally did it. I think there are gonna be a lot of people who, and I've seen the jokes being made leading up to this as they started to pick up momentum. Like after the like third or fourth one, they're like a lot of people were like, it'd be really funny if they finally got their 10-game win streak and it was like playing a bunch of nothing teams down the stretch of the season. But that's exactly what happened, with the exception of um an impressive win in this stretch against the Spurs. But even not just impressive, because now I need to look at the Nuggets game log. Have they beaten another playoff team in this stretch?
I mean, we beat the Spurs.
Besides the Spurs, I mean.
The Suns? Did we play the Suns?
Suns, yeah. Okay, yeah. So they've locked up the 7 seeds. A play-in team, that's something.
I think they'll make the playoffs.
Toronto, yeah. I guess counts. They did win that game. They beat Toronto. That counts.
That was a pivotal one. It was a close one.
Yeah,
for sure, to keep the win streak. That was like
the
one I was most worried about.
Was that the one after the Grizzlies game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. That was like to start the streak off, or it might have been the second one.
It was the first one.
Okay, yeah. I was the most worried about that one, I think, and maybe some of those Blazers games. Yeah.
Yeah, there were 2 Blazers games in this stretch. 2, and it doesn't even matter that the Blazers aren't good. Like, they haven't been good in a while. They've been like fringe play-in team since I started following the Nuggets. So like that's the only version of the Blazers that I know personally. But they're a division rival, and they've beaten Denver despite being like a worse team every single year that I've been following them before. But Denver, they almost swept the Blazers this year, if not for that weird game at the beginning of the season. But honestly, I feel like the most recent Blazers game, Denver kind of stole because they were down huge in that fourth quarter and then like came roaring back. So it was kind of even in that sense.
The comeback was crazy. It looked dire. I was ready to be like, goodbye 3 seed, goodbye, dreams, goodbye 10-game win streak, and just a crazy comeback. That was really fun to see. And I mean, it looked like we had given everything versus the Spurs, and so playing the Blazers just came out not that much intensity, and then it just kind of took the end of the game to get it together, and the Grizzlies game was kind of like that too, where they're kind of coasting, and then just we're like, okay, fourth quarter, we'll give it a shot here, and plus the Grizzlies might have done some tanking type of substitutions and benchings, but I'll take it.
The Blazers.
The Grizzlies last night.
I mean, they can't bench anybody. They only had 8 active players.
Yeah, I know. What they did bench, I don't know his name, but someone who was playing. I think
Cedric Howard played till the end, or at least until garbage time, because it became garbage time.
Yeah. Well, also thank you people for joining the chat. GP of St. John and Vyacheslav. Sorry you had to wait longer for the show, but there was DNVR on earlier and some other shows. If you guys watched that, hopefully you enjoyed it and can join us now.
And we're busy, guys. We have schedules too.
Yeah, we've been streaming a little later than normal, so thank you guys for still catching the show regardless.
Yeah, and this is also the time when you've already listened to all your morning podcasts and you're looking for more content, and here we are.
Yes, but I know we got some European and viewers around the world who it's not a
That's true.
convenient time for the most part. So
I
always
mean, if they
appreciate you
stayed up as
guys.
late as I did, then it'd be just fine.
I think it was Coward, Cedric Coward. I think he only played 22 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So I think they benched him like for like a really long time. That was a little
Mm.
bit weird.
I
But
did
regardless
not
of that.
notice because
Okay.
again, he's like the only player on that team I know. So I was like, I'm not even gonna try to learn like who's on the floor right now. I'm just like, Denver, can you please just come out of this game with a win? Not because of the 10-game win streak, because I didn't really care about that necessarily, but like I don't even we're gonna talk about this when it comes to seeding. I don't even know that I necessarily want them to have the 3 seed, but I want them to have the option of fighting for the 3 seed. And I think it would have been difficult if they'd lost that game. Dahlia says, I look forward to this. I need a place to rant about the Nuggets. You noticed Cedric Vyacheslav. Cedric was not the only one making shots in that game. That's the thing. There were like dudes that were like Monte Morris size that kept hitting threes, and I didn't understand what was happening in that game.
Mm-hmm.
The Grizzlies are really annoying. And I know friend of the
Yeah.
show, Ryan Blackburn, talked about this on Locked on Nuggets last night because they do this like this unending drive and kick thing where you finally think you force them into like the shot that you want them to take. So it's okay even if they miss it, like a tougher midi or like a contested shot at the rim. And then they're kicking out and driving and kicking again. And they'll do that 3-4 times a possession. And it's like, okay, like I get how like that could be exhausting, particularly for Denver, right? Kind of
Mm-hmm.
interesting because they're still doing a little bit of the pinwheel stuff that is it Noah LaRoche, their offensive coordinator from last year, who's now with the Heat or consulting for the Heat, uh, introduced to the Grizzlies, but then they got a new head coach, like or promoted, like the other consultant guy that they had brought in took over Taylor Jenkins' job. Whatever. I'm very curious to see what because I'm curious about like what direction the NBA is going and what kind of new ideas coaches can bring. I want to know what Tuomas Isalo can do with a healthy roster,
Mm-hmm.
um, with very different uh sort of X's and O's basketball philosophy than we necessarily see in an NBA game coming from coaching in Europe, coaching Finland, and then Paris basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the Grizzlies, I was worried it would be a trap game scenario where you don't know the personnel,
and it was
don't
it
know
was
what the hell they're
absolutely a trap
doing.
game.
And yeah, and I think a lot of fans were feeling similarly and waiting for that to happen and us potentially lose because it's not something you scout for. You don't know who you're playing against. A little unpredictable. Almost in a similar way where we kind of were stealing games when Jokic was out and we kind of had an advantage of, Adelman being a first time head coach and a lot of different weird lineups without Jokic. I mean, the Nuggets without Jokic is uh, an unrecognizable team. It's really hard to prepare for that. So, I mean, it's harder to beat Jokic when he's playing with the Nuggets, but when he's not playing, it's unpredictable. At least with Jokic, you know what he's going to do. It's just you can't stop what he's going to do. As we saw, the Spurs try to do. But the Grizzlies do always play us really tough, for sure. Like they took that game from us before, even though they were trying to tank. Thankfully, it didn't happen again. But it's kind of crazy because as much as we've been winning, and we're in the seed slot right now, it's still not even a guarantee we're going to get the 3 seed. It's so hard to get this 3 seed because we lost to the Lakers in that game, and that game really angered me. And now that I'm like over it, when I'm seeing how hard it is to secure this seeding, and like that was an important game at the time, that was partly why I
It's
was
important
mad.
now
It's
too.
coming back. Yeah, it's coming
Yeah,
back.
yeah, for sure. Okay, before we get into the seating question, and this kind of leads us into that, I want to talk a little bit about how Denver's been playing during this win streak. Um, friend of the show, Matt Moore, talks about this all the time. He doesn't really care about win streaks. In fact, he hates like really long ones because teams start losing sight of the importance of process and just trying to keep the win streak going, right? Something that has stood out to me about Denver, particularly over the last few games, but and you can see it in the way that they've been performing in the clutch and but also just throughout the games, is that offensively, this team is the equivalent of being aggressively on message offensively. Like you don't stop what they're not that you don't stop what they're doing. You don't stop them from trying to do what they want to do. They'll run their sets, they'll get their shots, they'll take their shots, right? Sometimes like they might try to force one thing or another to my chagrin, but it's not outside the flow of the offense that they're trying to run, right? It never devolves into like, selfish ISO ball, or we're just going to like try stuff out here, while we're, like on this win streak, whatever. Now, there are some like minor exceptions to that, like Jokic with like some of the outlet passes that turn into turnovers. But again, that's like within the flow of like you expect Jokic to want to do that. What was another example of like an off message offensive basketball play? There just aren't many possessions like that for Denver. Right? They just go in and do their thing. And you don't see a lot of improvisation that shocks the other guys on the floor. Anyway, like if you're trying something new, it's because they're like, okay, we want to like run this play now and just see like what the defense is going to do. We want to try it out. So I'm not worried about that side of the ball. Defensively, you could say, particularly over the last 3 games, because Denver has done something that I'm not sure. I don't think there's another team that's done that this season, where they've allowed 70 plus points in the first half for 3 consecutive games. I think Denver's the only team to do that this season. Just shocking because there are tanking teams in the league. I need to find that exact stat, by the way. But you're like, well, they have sort of degraded defensively compared to where they were post-trade deadline. Because we talked about on the show, post-trade deadline, they seem to be a little bit more buttoned up on the defensive end, with the exception of stretches, especially late in games. But now it's kind of like starting off, okay, like we need to pick up the energy and the execution on that side of the ball. And it's not really happening. Even in the Spurs game, I thought. They were just getting completely carved up. And that wasn't an energy problem. That was a execution problem. Then in the Blazers game, like you saw, like you said, in the first half of that game, it was like a complete energy, like let down to start that game. And it was palpable, right? So you could say that side of the ball has definitely degraded compared to where they were like a month ago. But like Denver's defensive baseline is already so low that's like, I don't know how much worse they could get in terms of not since All-Star break, but on the season, right? But I wanted to just get, do you agree with that? Like, what's your perspective overall on how they've been playing over the course of the win streak? It does feel like, especially on that like defensive side, because they've been giving up 70 plus points per half. Like they've been down at halftime for the last like few games now. How do you see this kind of projecting forward going into the last 2 games of the season?
Last 2 games are going to be interesting because I don't know who's going to be playing on these teams. Like there's cases for OKC to be resting.
Which doesn't really change Denver's prospects of winning that game, to be honest.
Yeah, with how deep the Thunder are. But so yeah, but I think we need to win these games, like I don't think they're going to go into it and anyway trying not to win. So regardless of who's playing, so we'll see whether they bring effort on defense or not. I think it was kind of an emphasis, almost like they were trying to prove it to themselves that they could bring up the defensive intensity. I think they know, obviously, and I'm sure the coaches are sending the message to them that that could be a real difference maker for us. And the time to figure out the defensive chemistry and what they're kind of made of in regards to that is running out. And post All-Star break, it's a home stretch, and fighting for the standings. And thankfully, we have climbed up in the standings a bit. And I think there were sometimes the offense was struggling, and I wonder if it was, struggling more than normal. We have a great offense. And I wondered if it was because people were really trying on offense, plus the fact that AG was kind of in and out of the other lineup still. But I feel like it's almost starting to balance a bit. And I think that this team still has the mindset of trying harder when it's against a legit team. Like, I feel like they really did try in the Spurs game, especially on offense, with a couple of like wrinkles we hadn't seen in terms of like Jamal coming off screens in a certain way and not just doing like the slip off of the horns action that we talked about in this show all the time. So it wasn't like a bunch of new stuff, but some new stuff. And Jokic looks particularly locked in. That was like an interesting game because if we do play them in the playoffs, there will be a lot more coverages coming from the Spurs rather than just having Wemby on Jokic one-on-one a lot of the time, which we'll talk about. But defense, I don't know. Yeah, like it's not like there's a ton that's convincing me that we've made a step to like permanently improve the defense, but I'm still just hoping that once the playoff starts and the rotation shorter and maybe Pwat's back, we can get defensive consistency in terms of like that middle of the league type of performance that we always want in the playoffs. And we've talked about the health getting right at the right time. People weren't sure that was a guarantee. It's kind of leaning that way. We're playing our best basketball, you could say, right now. And I think that there's a chance that the defense will improve in the playoffs.
I will say, in terms like you're talking about the not having like a ton of faith in like there being a switch for the defense. Something that is concerning to me, if you go into just individual player defensive ratings, which is not a good stat for like judging a player's defense, but we all know the general idea of the impact that AG has on Denver's defense when he is just on the floor versus off when he's out of games, etc. So just looking at the win streak, so over the last 10 games, and AG has missed 2 of those, Denver has a 121.7 defensive rating with him on the floor, which is no bueno. It's not like an AG stat. That's the point, is like, even if you just isolate those minutes, like the problem isn't just, AG not being on the floor is what I'm trying to say there. And so that side of the ball is just going to continue to be a question for me, regardless of anything that I saw from them last year. Because last year you saw like, okay, AG made that huge difference on the season. I will say, like, he has a massive on-off swing defensively for this team, but him coming back has not like fixed their issue right now. Him coming back from his most recent injury hasn't fixed their issue. It's going to take a lot. AG himself has struggled individually, but I would hardly say he's been the biggest problem with the defense. He just also hasn't been the solution, right? Now, I don't mention that to draw attention to AG specifically, but the point is, Bot Palinka says, great name, by the way, Adelman post game said, guards blow by our perimeter defenders pretty easily, so we have to zone up. Not something that's good to hear. Yes. You don't want to have to play zone. You want to be able to, but you don't want to have to. And yeah, I mean, this is another, like, I haven't really talked about this as one of my issues with the zone this season, because part of it is like execution wise, they treat it like rest instead of treating it like a curveball that they can actually use to try and get stops. It's like rest, or like just a thing that certain lineups have to play. I don't think these guys feel like enough pressure to like be good at their individual containment because of that.
Yeah. Hmm. I feel like you can see it too. I mean, we're gonna go through each player and kind of ask questions about them, and I can once we get to that and we talk about Christian Brown, we can I can talk about this more specifically.
Yeah.
But it's still a problem and not something that's been on tape. I mean, you know, Cam has moments where he does it right, but aside from that, there's not a lot. I mean, and you know, Vyacheslav saying he doesn't really love AG's D. He's talking about the whole game, not only 7 minutes. J.K.
Yeah.
Walrus asked
No,
about,
everybody's perimeter defense has been bad, like
yeah,
on the whole.
and I was
Every
just,
like perimeter, everybody who has, except for Cam, this is like, I have to say that, except for Cam. And you do not want Cam Johnson to be your best perimeter defender. He's been solid. The fact that that's the ceiling of all of our options right now is a problem.
yeah. Well, I'm just saying that to say that there are moments where other players have good defensive highlights, if I guess you can say that, or like
Yeah.
a play or like a
Plays, yeah,
stretch,
playmaking versus.
but it's not happening all the time,
Yeah.
obviously. So, and it's scary when you think of the playoffs when it's like your starters are going to be out there for virtually the whole game and they got to last, and we're already struggling staying healthy, and you got to play it. That's a lot of intensity to play both sides like that at a high level in the playoffs. So we'll see how that goes. J.K. Walrus did ask about clutch defense numbers since AG came back, if that's improved at all. I haven't looked at those numbers in a little bit.
I can tell you where they sit right now. Or I guess I could just go last 10 games, but that's kind of weird. I'll just tell you where they sit, which they were, I think, 24th in clutch defense the last time I checked on the season. And right now, Denver is sitting at 28th.
Mm-hmm.
Still hasn't been great. The clutch offense has like really bumped up, which has been like, I think, the bigger driver.
Yeah.
They've had some good stretches in the Spurs game, definitely in the Blazers game, but I was like, there was nothing about when we were playing the Blazers in the clutch after it turned into a clutch game. There was nothing about that fourth quarter where I was like, wow, Denver's like really locking these guys down, like they're putting them in like a chokehold. It's like, what the hell are the Blazers doing? Honestly, um, there was probably like a moment here and there, like a really good, like a tough contested rebound or like a block, but there was nothing where I was like, wow, this like the Spurs game. I do genuinely think like that fourth quarter, especially in overtime, was like, wow, this is what the defense could look like if everybody's playing at like 99%. Um, but I wouldn't say that the clutch defense has been like wowing me over the course of the win streak.
Yeah, they Vyacheslav talking about CB guarding last game. Did you feel like he I didn't I mean that was a weird game,
Against the
obviously.
Grizzlies,
Yeah.
I'm not taking anything away from that game. There was nobody on the floor for that team.
Yeah. But CB was getting blown by Denny, that's for sure.
And like forcing him, it wasn't just getting blown by. I was like, Christian, you're forcing him to his right. You're not supposed to do that. It was like the reverse of what was going on with Harden in the early part of that Clippers series, where we're going over the clips and we're like, Christian, your hips are supposed to be turned to the other direction. You are forcing him to his strong hand right now. What is going on here?
Yeah. I will just say there were times where both the Spurs and the Blazers didn't punish CB or use CB to give themselves more leverage against us to close these games than I thought when I was looking back
I will
at
say,
it.
like, he's not the weakest guy on the floor,
No.
despite the
And a
yeah.
lot of people did say like we might have won the Spurs game because of CB and like him hitting those threes and you know like what he did on offense. On defense, I didn't see like a ton that convinced me that he was like a difference maker. But I'll talk about that later as well when we get to CB specifically.
Yeah.
But I will say like in regards to Denver's clutch defense stuff, it just seems like we're still going with we're going to score a lot when it comes to the end of the game. We'll try to get a couple stops and then we'll keep scoring and win. It's just that's when the defense is that bad, it's not always going to happen. But thankfully, our offense has been so good that it's put us over the edge in these moments. So,
yeah. All right, let's get to these playoff questions. Well, if you could bring up the playoff picture as it stands at 3:44 in the afternoon Mountain Time on April 9th.
yes, 1 sec. Let me grab that. But talk about it and then I'll bring it up.
If the playoffs ended today, Denver would be the 3 seed. They still have 2 more games to play, but I wanted to bring up the graphics so we could look at what the potential matchups could look like. So if Denver ends up winning their last 2 games, they win the 3 seed. Like, there's no question about it. If they lose one, they would need the Lakers to lose a game. Like, if they lose one, win the other, they would need the Lakers to lose a game in order to secure the 3. And the Lakers are not playing any teams that have anything to play for down the stretch of the season, just by the way. I think a lot of people were like, well, maybe that Suns game will be hard for them. Like, the Suns have locked up the 7th seed. They can't move up or down. So they're probably resting guys. The Rockets are another potential threat for the 3 seed. Like, there is still, even after the season the Rockets have had, there's still a possibility that they end up with the 3 seed. And because we have the tiebreaker over the Rockets, unlike the Lakers, we win the 3 if we win both games. I think we win the 3 if we win even just one, like if the Lakers weren't part of the equation, because we have tiebreaker over the Rockets. But if you lose both, the Rockets just need to win out and win 53 games and they can take the 3 seed potentially. Actually, looking at that now, what would happen in the event of like a Lakers Rockets tie? I think actually I have a note on this. I think the Lakers have tiebreaker over Houston as well. They do. So the Lakers, the Houston would have to probably win out to get the 3 seed. And they could, because they are playing, I think, the Sixers, the Mavs, and no, they're playing the Wolves, who are decimated by injuries right now. The Sixers, the Wolves, and some tanking team I can't remember to close the season.
I also think if the Lakers win out, they get the 3 seed too, but it just seems unlikely that they do that.
Well, that's right? Assuming Denver loses a game. If Denver loses a game, then yeah. But if Denver wins out, like they have it, like they have,
yeah,
right.
If
Denver loses a game, that's when it becomes like anybody's game, basically. They're like, Denver is still in the running for the 5 seed at this point. Like, they're not guaranteed home court in a series yet. If they win one more game, they can guarantee at least 4, I believe, because they would be ahead of Houston. Vyacheslav says they have to win out for 3rd seed and us to lose both games. That is the only option. No, Vyacheslav, the Lakers have... Oh, for Houston, yes.
Yeah.
So to get Houston out of our hair, we just need one more win, which there's only 2 games left, and it's OKC and San Antonio. I don't know.
I know. Well, Wemby just got the rib contusion thing. Is he going to play?
Yes, I forgot about that. That actually might... not that it matters, because the last time we played the Spurs without Wemby, like, we were down 20 at halftime, and the first time we played the Spurs without Wemby... Not the last time, the time before this one, because we played the Spurs 4 times this season. First time, we were up 18 in 3rd quarter and then blew it at the end. Second time, we play them really close, win it at the end, but we were down big in that game too. Third time, we're down big, and then we come back.
Yeah. I do think people are right that we could beat OKC if they sit everyone, and obviously if Wemby's not playing, like, we have a chance to win both these games. And I think Matt Moore was saying he's like very confident that the Nuggets are going to win the last 2 games. I've been looking at it more. if we lose these 2 games, what are we dealing with? But
if you lose both games and the Rockets and Lakers win out, you're the 5 seed.
yes, yeah.
Which
But I
is very
don't think that's
possible
going to
just
happen.
because of the competition that they're facing. Like they're
Yeah.
not playing. And look, the competition we're facing is going to be like OKC's like all-star G League team, but they can have like a plus 10 net rating. And then San Antonio, which might be missing Wemby, might be sitting other guys too. But we just saw Denver, how Denver looked against the Grizzlies, like the quote unquote Grizzlies. So
just never know.
Nothing is assured at this point. So my question in all of this, Will, do you want the 3 seed? I think that we both agree, like, we don't want the 5 seed, right? Or like you would prefer 4 or 3 or 4 over 5 because you want home court. Even with the way that this season has gone with playing at home.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd rather, yeah.
For the travel and like all of that. Do you actually want the 3 seed over the 4 seed? And we can talk about some of the merits of both at this point, now that we know that like OKC has locked the 1 and Spurs are going to be 2, and that the Wolves are locked into 6. Like there's like there's a bunch of other things that have already locked into place.
Right. I mean, it is like at first glance, it was tough for me to think about what path I wanted, because playing the Wolves in the first round, something that I would never have wanted in a million years. That's, I mean, we did that the year we won the championship. Obviously, they're much better now. They have Rudy Gobert, and Cat's no longer on that team. Ant's getting better, but with his knee and Jaden McDaniels being hurt, that's the kind of hope. And there's a reason the Wolves are the 6th seed, and there's a reason the 3 seed is historically important, and teams that have higher seeding technically get easier matchups and don't have to go through grueling 7-game series in the first round like we did, like versus the Clippers last season, things like that. And then you're playing OKC round 2 and you're coming off a 7-game series and exhausted. So
with a short rotation Wolves, because of like what the roster was. So it was
even though it's the Wolves and we know that matchup's annoying for us, I feel better about it than in the past. And I do think that there's a chance we could beat the Wolves, quicker than in 7 games, to like at least try and get a little bit of rest if we had to play the Spurs. And I do think we have a little bit better of a chance against the Spurs than I thought initially, especially just after seeing us play them. And then you're not playing OKC in the second round. So I don't know. I feel like the 3rd seed is clearly the best way to go about it.
So Jaden is back. He did play yesterday. He played 19 minutes. He had 18 points against my Orlando Magic, who still won that game, by the way, because the Wolves are reeling. I don't think Rudy played in that game either. They had a bunch of guys out. I couldn't tell if the really long injury report was because of like actual, like, going to be out for a few games or like through the end of the season injuries, or just let's get these guys a game of rest. And also, like, now that they're locked into the 6th seed, they're not playing for anything down the stretch of the season, which is part of the reason of like, well, the Rockets are going to take that game against the Wolves. My concern with the Wolves matchup is, yes, Ant's dealing with runner's knee right now. The playoffs wouldn't start for 2 weeks. And Jaden is now back, and he's like getting back into shape from missing like let's see, he missed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. They might be like getting healthy at the right time, like right when they're about to play Denver. Now, we've played the Wolves healthy this year. We've played them 4 times this season. We went 3-1. That last one was like unpleasant for sure, the loss. But it's not like we haven't faced a healthy Wolves team this year, and Denver has fared a little bit better against them this year than last. Even in games where we're missing guys, like I think the Christmas matchup, we were missing AG and Christian were both still out. Like there was a lot of speculation that they might be coming back from the injuries that they suffered in November for that game, but neither of them was back for that Wolves game, I believe. And we were still able to win. There was another game earlier in the season that we won, kind of going away. I think the first game that we played without Christian after his injury, or maybe he got hurt in that first Wolves game, and we ended up, winning it in a blowout. But it wasn't. These like games against the Wolves are always these like big games of like big runs from both teams, and it's not like Denver was up the whole time. So I don't have like a good kind of big picture read on that matchup before I've dug into the film, which if Denver does get the 3 seed will be what we're going to be reviewing next week going into the playoffs. So I just don't have a good feel for that matchup, and it doesn't make me feel good. I can say that. But that's not the reason that I've really been thinking about like maybe the 4 seed would be better. It's less about the Wolves and more about this question of, are the Spurs actually the easier second round matchup compared to the Thunder? Let's assume they make it out of round 1 regardless of who they play. Let's say they win in 5 or 6 regardless of who they play, right? First of all, do you think that the Wolves are the hardest round 1 matchup available given the totality of the circumstances, their health situation, the like individual matchups, whatever, of the like Wolves, Lakers, Rockets that are currently available?
Yes, for us.
Okay.
So yeah, it sucks. It's like you kind of take the not ideal first round in hopes that maybe, like, yeah, the Spurs, if you do think the Spurs are the easier second round matchup, like barely, like it's still going to be really hard. Or would you rather play OKC when you're fresh? Like some people have been asking in the chat, like you're fresher in the second round. But if OKC, if you meet them in the Western Conference final, how banged up are they? I mean, like, they're the 1 seed, so they're going to be playing easier teams. Like their first round matchup is going to be a joke.
Yeah.
Unless it's like the Clippers and Kawhi goes like God mode and like steal some games or something. But
just steal a couple, just to extend the series a little bit. That's all we're asking for over here.
Yeah.
But the Clippers are too
I don't
old.
know.
Like they just get walloped by athletic teams.
It would be nice to. I mean, we usually win first round series, get the monkey off your back with the Wolves, but like it's one of those things where the series could go long. And I definitely would rather play Houston, but I don't know. And it's like if you're going to have to play OKC anyway, when would you rather do it? And going to the Western Conference Finals and losing to OKC, how much different is it than losing to OKC in the second round? I don't know. It's so tough. Like I would much rather play Houston in the first round. Like that's not a question at all. But just a matter of the rest of the
even
time,
given how they're playing and how they're much healthier than the Lakers or the Wolves right now.
I just feel like we have that matchup in the bag, you know? Like I just feel confident about it, about beating them. Like I just would not worry at all. And with the Wolves, I would worry a little bit for sure.
I guess with
It's
the
weird though.
Rockets matchup, I felt better about it earlier in the season, but the more I think about it, like, I don't know, those games have been relatively close. Like, it's not like your team has like an overwhelming advantage compared to the other. And largely because I'm like, I mean, they're so reliant on offensive rebounding, but like Denver can't keep them off the glass. Like, you know, the reason I would prefer to play the Rockets at this point is just I'd like to study a new matchup.
Yeah, of course.
Because we've done Lakers and Wolves so many times over the last few years.
I mean, I would love to play the Lakers without Luka. Like that would be the easiest first round. It's just like the weakest 4-5, like Lakers and Rockets right now, as it currently stands with these injuries and such, is pretty weak. But LeBron versus KD would be kind of fun.
Kind of similar to like Mavs Clippers 4-5 a couple years ago when the Mavs were the 5. Because the Clippers were like Kawhi was like barely alive because he had just come back from like super knee swelling and whatever. And I don't know, Paul George was doing his Paul George thing. So that was pretty similar to me, honestly. And the Clippers were like reeling at the end of the season that year. Like they like limped to the 4 seed that season.
Yeah.
So
I want to bring up this point by Iceman Sham. He says it could set good momentum for the run beating the Wolves in the first round. I think there's something to that. And I think playing the Clippers and like it required us to play really sharp basketball and like tough basketball and win games close in the playoffs. And then we kind of rolled into the Thunder series and they had to take a couple games to like match our intensity. And we didn't quite get there, but it was close. Like I could see that giving us a little bit of an advantage in a way, like if I'm trying to be as optimistic as I can. It's like, being battle tested is the thing, but the thing is that the NBA playoffs is such a grind that you don't want to get worn down.
if Denver gets the 3 seed, how confident are you that the Spurs make the Western Conference Finals?
If because they'd have to go through us. So
sorry, I meant 4. If Denver got the 4 seed. So that means the Spurs are playing, like, we assume they beat whoever in round 1, even if it's the Clippers, let's say it goes long, but maybe you don't assume that. And then in round 2, they would play either the Lakers or the Rockets, get whoever gets the 3.
So
or the
they would
Wolves.
play.
The Wolves could win that series too.
When would, let's see, because we play OKC second round.
Right. If we were 4, because we were in that bracket, then whoever gets the 3, which could be Lakers or Rockets at this point still, or the Wolves, if the Wolves beat them in round 1, beat whoever gets the 3 in round 1, then they would be playing San Antonio.
I mean, avoiding Denver and OKC altogether is a pretty good dream.
It is. But like,
so
what are the chances? Like, what chances do you give the Spurs to make the Western Conference Finals if they do avoid Denver and OKC?
I mean, I think a pretty good chance, but they're still
like over 50%.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
over 60%.
I think maybe around there.
60.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because like I could see them getting upset by some team, like maybe. Let's see. We play. What's the team that they would have to play in the second round?
The 7 seed. So it would be either the Suns or, I think at this point it would be the Suns or the Clippers. Who is in 8 right now? Blazers. So honestly, that's like easier potentially because the Clippers can't get the 7 seed. So they can't play San Antonio.
Yeah.
Actually, no, because the Clippers can get the 8 seed and then win 7 in the play-in. So actually, they could, because that's still not decided yet between 8 and 9 between the Blazers and the Clippers. They're both still playing for that position in the play-in. So it could be Suns, Blazers, or Clippers that San Antonio plays first.
Yeah, I mean, I still have questions about San Antonio. I think just because they're young and like with anything, a young team, inexperienced. I even saw that in the game that they played against us where they do rely a lot on talent and, being youthful and explosive and obviously with Wemby doing his thing. But they're not, I still don't think they're the smartest team. And so I think something like that could still bite them in the playoffs, which is why I'm not giving them 100% chance to reach the Western Conference in that scenario. But
they're such a good
they're still really
offense.
good. They're still really good. Yeah.
They're such a good transition offense. Like, it stood out how bad our transition offense is when we played them in that game. And it's something that I is on my radar anyway, because of how Denver has been this season. I'm actually trying to look up where the Spurs are in half court offense right now. Because they're 3rd in offense on the season, but I sort of wonder if that is driven primarily by just high-powered transition offense. Let's see. Oh, cleaning the glass is taking forever to load, so we'll just leave that
Well,
in the background.
it is. I mean, the Spurs are good. They have a chance. They're scary for sure. Bot Palinka said, "What would be your reaction if Denver
Yeah,
lost in the first to
102.
Minnesota?" I would be upset. I mean, I would understand that the Wolves are a team that has beat us in the playoffs before and Ant is really good. And it's like, with the seeding, it just so happened we got that matchup. And, it's the West, so you could play a really tough team in the first round. So it may not hurt as much as like losing to some scrub team like the Suns or something that you like. There's no way you should lose to them. But I still think it would show there's really good teams like OKC and the Spurs. They're better than the Wolves. And if we can't overcome the Wolves just because they do the same thing where they have all these athletic dudes and they're just taking us out of the game, then it just shows that like the Nuggets probably need to shift gears. We need to get more athletic and strong because we keep getting taken out by the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. What we could learn from potential losses, which maybe we'll go into that a little bit deeper next episode in anticipation. Vyacheslav says I would have depression for a year. I'd be pretty depressed.
It would
I
be
would be
very
pretty
deflating.
depressed. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the Spurs matchup in particular. Because Denver would ideally play them in round 2, assuming they get the 3 seed. If they do play San Antonio, I do think the Spurs are the best offensive team that Denver has played in a series since I've been watching. And I just checked, they're actually 4th in half court offense as well. They're not just transition merchants. They pass the ball. They have all these guards that can get good dribble penetration. They're a good shooting team, even though they kind of dried up in the second half against Denver. And they've got Wemby who can, play 5 out and do all that stuff. I am very wary of that firepower because of just how I've seen other teams play Denver. And the more I think about it, the more like this Spurs team reminds me of the kinds of teams that Denver Nuggets fans of much longer than, than I've been following the team have over teams like the Jazz with back when Donovan Mitchell and Rudy were there, and the Blazers especially, and the Blazers who they've played in a series and like lit them on fire kind of thing. And so a lot of people talk about the Spurs matchup in particular being like easier for Jokic offensively. But defensively, is it worse? Not just for Jokic, but the whole team, just because of just the volume of athletic and skilled perimeter creators that San Antonio has. Like we like opened the show talking about like, my God, this team can't contain dribble penetration to save their lives kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it brings me back to, here's me like posing a coherent question. One of our first episodes of the podcast, where we talked about different questions about playoff philosophy and what you want out of a playoff matchup. For this version of the Denver Nuggets, would you prefer to play a team that was easier to guard or easier to score on? And I think
Yeah.
I think there are good explanations either way.
I would rather play someone who's easier to score on
Okay.
because that is our strength and is our offense. And
So
maybe we
want
can.
strength on weakness.
Yeah. So our offense may be able to beat anyone, obviously. Like we have such a good offense. And we just saw Jokic score on Wemby a bunch and that was awesome. But there's things the Spurs can do, like doubling Jokic more that we'll see in that matchup, which we didn't see as much in the game. But yeah, and the fact that like we can't guard as much. And I think that's why OKC and the Wolves have been tough for us in the past because they can just clamp down on what the Nuggets' strengths are just enough to just make it really tough for us. Whereas like the teams that we play that are just worse on defense, we just beat. I just feel like that's just how it is.
Actually going to see here how Denver has done versus top 10. I think our scoring against top 10 defenses has actually been pretty good relative to the league. But if we go to opponent, let's go bottom 10 defenses, which there aren't going to be. Well, it's going to be us and the Lakers are the only bottom 10 defenses that are going to be in the playoffs, which is scary. But if we look at bottom 10 defenses, Denver's actually not. Okay, that's point differential. Okay, second. So we're second in offense against bottom 10 defenses. New York Knicks, they're another like really hot team that kind of relies on that side of the ball. Jesus. 23rd in defense. Jump scare every time I look at our defensive stats, honestly. I think that's fair. I think that's a very fair thing to be like, look, we might not be able to stop anybody. But if we know we can score, I'll feel better. Because I'll know we can at least like they still have to keep up with us, even if like they can score on us. They have to keep up with our like red hot offense that is going to be scoring because we can score on this like worst defense. My question though is like, of the teams that Denver can play potentially in like any round of the playoffs right now, the worst defense is like the Lakers. And then the second worst would be in the East. It would probably be the Knicks, right? Because we're talking about the Thunder, the Spurs, the Wolves. Those are the only teams Denver can play in the playoffs right now, right? And besides the Lakers, which you've already named. I just named every team in the top 6 in the West, by the way. It's just like, oh, the only teams that can play are the teams that have made the playoffs, obviously. But those teams are not bad defenses. Dahlia says we also haven't been healthy. I know, Dahlia, but like we might not be healthy in the playoffs either, which is another question that we'll get to. I don't think that we can rely on that as a crutch. The question is like, what is Denver actually going to do in the playoffs, not what their theoretical potential is.
Yeah.
But like here's the other case though. The case for playing a team that is maybe better defensively, but a much worse offense. And even though on paper the Thunder offense looks really good, like we all see like how it can grind to a halt in some of these games, not just when they play Denver, like played Denver in the playoffs, but in like all of their losses this season, it's because the scoring dried up, right? Like that it's not that you expect that to happen, but if they lose, that's what it looks like, right? It's never going to be the other side of the ball with the Thunder, almost never, which is why they're a generational defense, right? But I don't believe that on argument in earnest. Like, I just think OKC is a way better team than San Antonio, and they can blow you out, I think, a little bit easier because of that defense being more effective against us than San Antonio's is, even though San Antonio is also really good defense.
Yeah, the game can just get out of hand with OKC with turnovers, and then it's just a snowball. And it's just, the harder it is for us to score, the more importance there is on someone holding up, like Christian Brown holding up versus Ant versus SGA.
Not just holding up. Like Christian, we're going to get to it, but Christian needs to do more than hold up because of who else we have on this roster. Like he needs to have an impact, right? We'll talk about players that need to hold up.
I'm just like, please just hold up a little bit.
No, like you got to do more than that, man, because we need more from you specifically. Let's see here. We already talked about the Wolves. Do you think any of these matchups, either first or second round potential opponents, is easier for Jamal?
Any of these teams? Well,
for either side of the ball, frankly, because I think the Spurs are hard for Jamal on both sides because of just what his position is. and how good like Stephon Castle is at screen navigation.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to look and see how Jamal was getting looks versus the Spurs in that game, and it was almost all of it was off of a DHO or a screen or something, and rarely ever like a self-created play. Though I did
I
pull
mean,
one.
yeah, you're not gonna.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have wanted him to do that either
yeah, it's
against
fair enough.
this
Yeah,
kind of. I mean, they're not quite OKC in terms of the uh individual defensive talent and like aggressiveness, but like they're really really good.
yeah,
Our expert says Spurs are harder for Jamal because he has to guard 3 scoring guards versus OKC. He doesn't have to guard often. True. Right? And
yeah.
that's where like the
Dahlia.
defensive side of the ball comes. Like Jamal can like basically rest on deep, and we know he did that the last time they played OKC or the time before that where Casey Wallace had those like 10 threes or whatever. Uh
Mm-hmm.
maybe he rested a little bit too much that time. But he can basically rest on defense versus OKC because of how not just like the lack of options they have, but the way that they play as a result of the lack of options they have. It's like unless Jamal is guarding SGA, he's basically chilling for most of the game, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Iceman said feels like people are going to do the same thing versus Jamal pressure full court and tire him out. Yeah, they tried. The Spurs tried that too. Thankfully, Jamal looks like very ready. Like him and Jokic look so healthy to me, to be honest. And
All right, don't jinx
I
that shit, Will.
yeah, but I'm like excited. I think they'll take on the challenge and do really well. Yeah, probably this might seem crazy, but let's say I mean Jaden McDaniels is back. They've had good success putting Ant on Jamal and letting Jaden do other things with Ant's knee. Can he guard Jamal like that?
It's a good
You
question,
know,
honestly. Even if he were able to come back for that series, and I anticipate that Ant's going to play in that first round series,
oh yeah, he's gonna come back.
regardless of like his condition, because
And I question if
he's not
Jaden
missing a
McDaniels
leg.
is yeah, is Jaden McDaniels like he's back, but lingering pain. Like Jokic took a
Yeah,
while, like
a
coming back from a
while.
bone bruise to look comfortable. Like how's he gonna
He
look?
also wasn't out as long. Jaden wasn't out as long as Jokic was, too, so it might not take as long. And he's not the focus of the Wolves offense. Like there's a lot more burden on Jokic than there is on Jaden. He's just like, I just gotta like do my thing every few possessions, not I have to be on it every possession. So I think that's a little bit different of a dynamic. Vyacheslav says no gnaw or cat is not a small thing. I agree with that. I do think that that definitely matters. Although last season they didn't have a cat either, and I thought that they were able to approximate enough of what they do with cat. Like he wasn't as effective because he's easier to move for Jokic. Randall is, but there are some things that Julius can do that the cat can't. Like he's a much better perimeter defender, like in isolation, for example. So if you wanted to switch him onto Jamal, like he can still force like a tougher shot. Or when he does a better job, I think, fronting Jokic than like Cat would. They didn't really do a lot of of fronting with Cat, and they could be more like swarmy and aggressive because Julius has a bit more foot speed than Cat. So they can they can kind of be like, we're gonna run the Thunder playbook, but with bigger dudes almost.
Mm,
Which is I'm not looking forward to it, honestly.
mm,
But again, I don't have a great feel for the matchup until I look at the tape because Denver is so different. The way they play is like so different than before, and the Wolves are very different than the last time these guys had a series.
yeah, they also have
Um,
Io too.
he was out last game with like a calf thing. Do we
Oh,
know if that's going to be a long-term situation?
those calves. I mean, we've had
Or if
players who've
that
had
again, that
calf.
was another one where I was like, is this like real or is this just like we're resting guys
Yeah,
down the stretch of the season? I just want to see how many games Io has missed. It might have just been. It's literally just that last game. He played 33 minutes the game before. He's coming off the bench, so I feel like it's just like a rest thing.
I still think out of these teams, just because of their
Calf
talent
soreness.
level,
It's not even like tightness. Like they're just like resting guys. So I don't think that that's like. I
mm-hmm.
wonder if because I saw Julius was also out with like a hand. Is it hand soreness that he had too? Julius Randle. Oh, this is from earlier in the season. It's not here. Yeah, but yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't think any of these matchups are easy for Jamal besides the Lakers. I actually think like Jamal
I
does
think the
better in the
Rockets are
Rockets
easier.
matchup than people
Yeah.
give him credit for because they
It's
really
like,
just have it's really just Amen.
yeah. No, it's like Lakers and Rockets clearly the best for Jamal out of Spurs, OKC, Wolves. I think Wolves are the best right now. Mostly because of like their injuries and stuff.
Well, yeah, and you wouldn't
So
play
yeah.
the Spurs or OKC in round 1 anyway. So
Yeah. But
he
it's just
might
like
have to play
everyone
all
said.
3 of those teams. By the way, that might just be the path.
I know that
In an
imagine
ideal
it,
world, that's the path that Jamal has to
man.
take to get to the
If
finals.
we go through this path and like beat the Celtics in the finals and we beat Wolves, OKC,
Best
Celtics,
ring ever.
Spurs, like
Best
my
ring ever,
God, man.
honestly.
That is you will never be able to say anything about Jokic again.
Or Jamal,
Yeah.
honestly.
It's
Um,
shaping up to be quite a run, but it's gonna be tough. But
I
I'm
mean,
excited
it
to see
could
it.
be, or it could just be one round.
Yeah. All right, well, let's go to the next question. What do
Okay,
we got?
let's talk about the coaching. Will, if you want to bring that one up here.
Bring up the topic.
Yeah.
I was like, do we have a graphic for this?
No, don't worry.
So yeah, I mean, we got a first year coach technically, although he was our head coach the entirety of the playoffs last season.
Yes.
And I don't think we're going to be firing him with 2 games left. So
No.
that's not happening again. We're going to be going up against the Wolves theoretically. Finch is the head coach. You got Mark Dagnall. You got who is the head coach of the Spurs? I just lost his name.
Mitch Johnson.
There you go. So how are you feeling about possible coaching mismatches? There's been questions about Adelman all year. He does some good things. There's some things that are questionable. We're getting to the point where the rotations are theoretically going to be a lot easier to decide on because you're just picking your best guys, most trusted guys. Do you feel like he might be out coached in a series?
There's a lot of young coaches in these playoffs, like you said. Chris Finch is going to be the most experienced head coach in the West playoffs, other than probably Ty Lue if the Clippers are able to make it through via play-in. And if they're not, it's going to be. I mean, we're just assuming the Warriors are out, but they obviously still have a chance as the 10 seed to make it in there, and that would make Kerr the most experienced coach in the West playoffs. But we're gonna assume the Warriors are not gonna make it, but who knows? I think I'm curious to see what lessons DA has learned over the course of both the playoffs last year and the regular season when it comes to approaching these playoff matchups. Um, My question for you about fears with DA, like being a first year head coach, even though it's going to be his second playoffs coached. What is your biggest concern about DA come playoff time, based on what you've seen from him and what the playoffs require?
I It's kind of crazy to think about the offensive side of the ball. I feel like that's just where his like impact is, and like we know we have other coaches for defense. We've had questions
But he's
about
involved
Jokic.
in that too. He's made that
Sure.
pretty clear from the beginning. Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be like the guy who is in charge of like the game plans and going over film and all that. So, if he's not making the right calls and adjustments, and if he's, I mean, people are still trying to get used to the timeouts, like the Malone rage timeouts, and letting, runs go on. Like people are bringing that up for sure. That's one. But also just like, how is he going to solve Jokic being fronted and being grabbed and being fouled? How creative can we be to get good looks? Because even though we have the best offense in the league, I think it's going to take a little bit of adjusting. And I know that's like on the players too, but like when the Spurs start doubling Jokic, or because we see this all the time, teams are really just trying to take away Jokic. What are we going to do? How are we going to get Cam involved? Because we've wanted MPJ to be a guy who can take over in those kinds of moments, or that's why we wanted other ball handlers to take over the load when that happens, when they're kind of cutting Jokic off. What creative solutions can he come up with?
Yeah. I'm not really that's a good one because I think that we probably expected to see a little bit more creativity in approaching this like continual problem as the season has gone on than we've necessarily seen. And, you've got like the easy retort is like they're the number one offense. They're like the number
Yeah.
one offense of all time, in fact, or close to it. Maybe not in the raw numbers on the season right now, but they are definitely the number one offense, like by far on this season right now. Um, so it's like, well, how big of a problem is it actually? Well, I don't know. Well, I guess we're going to see come playoff time, right? Because we did see the offense dry up come playoffs last year, despite being, a top five offense, for example, but having issues that we saw throughout the year that, bubbled up come playoff time facing good defenses, great defenses, in fact. I do want to spend a little bit of time on this like timeout question because I don't think it can be waved away. One of the things that becomes heightened in the playoffs is like the importance of each possession, like each bucket on a run that you're having or that the other team is having becomes heightened. And I felt like honestly for the most part, and I felt this way before Malone was fired, before DA came in, whatever. I thought Malone did a pretty good job of calling timeout exactly like when I wanted him to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a possession too late sometime, like every so often. With DA, it's always like two, sometimes three possessions later, and I'm like, my guy, like you got to stop this run that the other team is on because they're eating into your lead or they're extending theirs and making the every like each one of those like buckets um lessens the probability of a comeback in this instance, right? And if Denver is going to like, especially for Denver, if they're going to be the kind of team that kind of relies on like keeping the game close and then trying to pull away at the end, um, you really need to be like incredibly buttoned up when it comes to those details. And I don't think he's there yet on that stuff. I think he gets a little bit too, I don't know if being like is it even a thing to be quote caught up in the big picture? I guess you can't get caught up in the big picture, but he's like he like kind of misses some of those like minute details and like momentum and swings in the game and stuff like that. I do think that like Denver has had some incredible comebacks this year that didn't have to be as big as they were because of that. And they've also like missed
Mm-hmm.
out on a few as a result. Um
Mm-hmm.
so I actually think the timeouts thing is like something I'm going to be hyper focusing on that may seem unfair, but I think it's important enough in the context of the kind of team that Denver is trying to be, given that their defense just kind of is what it is and they need to keep things close.
Yeah.
That
I don't
detail
know.
matters.
It seems like it goes in line with him being this collaborative, I'm going to give autonomy to the players coach, and less of a like commander
Oh
type
my
of
gosh.
coach.
But the funny thing is like the players like never call timeout. Like
Yeah, the players, they don't do that,
it's
which
not
they
like,
can.
like Jalen Brunson calls timeout whenever like he wants. I don't know if he's been doing that this year, but under Tibbs, it was like, yeah, like if you like, this is the time, like they're going on a run, like we're going to stop this so that we can like get subs in, whatever. Right. Our players don't do that. They just
Yeah, they
don't,
don't.
unless it's like end of game situation and the timeouts have been like preordained because they're like, get the rebound, call the timeout, and we'll draw up a play. And that's also like an interesting thing here because DA is kind of like ceding some autonomy, but the players are like not taking on that responsibility either. So it's kind of like, okay, well, this wouldn't be as big of a deal to me if I felt like the players had a decent sense of you also don't want players trying to like call, they don't know how many timeouts are left. They have so many other things on their mind. Like that's why the coach is like the game manager for the most part in these
It's like
situations. So it's not
the
like I
first thing.
want another thing for Jokic or Jamal to have to think about when they're on the court. But it is interesting that nobody seems to be taking responsibility for this. And I do put that more on DA than the players, but that's an interesting
Well, and
thing.
there's online discourse going on about the numbers around ATOs and like how good the Nuggets have been and all that. And I know you were asking for more clarification on that with sample size or something, or like shot quality. I don't remember, what were you asking about for that online, but
There's a graphic going around about how it's a little bit misleading. Like it's very much phrased correctly, but the graphic I don't think ideally conveys it. Denver is number 1 in how good their after timeout plays are in terms of points per possession scored relative to their half court offense. So every team's bar is relative to how good they are at half court offense and baseline. I like using each team's respective half court offense as that baseline, by the way, because it gives you a sense of like, if you were just comparing ATO, like points per possession across teams, it's such a small sample size. There's a lot of noise, and that's still true regardless of this graphic. But well, better shooting teams are going to have better ATO numbers just because they shoot the ball better than other teams, even though how well
wait,
was the play designed? How well did the players execute?
hold
Right.
on, we might
So
have disconnected.
did we?
1 second. We might be back. Are we back?
It's playing on my phone.
Let me see if we're still streaming. I think we're back.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back.
Okay. We're back.
We're back.
Okay. We're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. But Denver is number 1 in terms of your ATO is making your half court offense better. So that's like what they're number 1 at this season. Like how much better your half court offense is after timeouts compared to not. Now, one critique of that stat is like, I mean, for a team that has like really, really bad half court offense, they might just like be able to bring it up to average. So it's just a comparison of like, okay, how effective are your out of timeout plays at like steadying the ship effectively? Right. And Denver's number 1 at that.
And
They've
it's like,
been kind of at the top of the league, if not like number 1, like kind of top in that like top 5 area for ATOs for a couple of years now. So that's not a shocking stat, but we're number 1 by a mile in this particular graphic.
it's just funny because it seems it's like the one thing that everyone's been talking about, giving Adelman credit. And, it's a sign of a coach, ATO, clear message to the players, clear execution. But it's tied to the timeouts, which is like a big question too, because you got to do the ATO after the timeout. So if we're so good at it, don't be so afraid to call a timeout. We play
Yeah.
well coming out of it. So
I'm just going to send you the link so you can show the graphics so people have some idea of like what I'm trying to describe with like where Denver sits in the league with respect to the effectiveness of their ATOs. This came from Steph No, writer here who works at Sporting News, NBA writer. Follow him for analysis. There's a lot of like, there's a lot of like little like critiques you can have of like that
we're
I'd be
lagging again.
Are we?
Yeah. We're back, but He
Okay.
keeps lagging.
Okay. I don't know. So the other question I had about DA is what is one aspect of game management that I'd be shocked if DA got wrong? And after timeouts and like plays just play design period, I'm not too worried about that because like there are going to be certain situations where like the defense gets the better of you, they read certain things or um they figure you out. I'm not as worried about the play design aspect of game management. I'm worried about like when the timeout comes, not what's going to come after it. Right?
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
want it to have as much impact as possible on win probability. So I'd like them to come the timeouts to come in a timely fashion. Um let's see. We
I'm
don't
gonna
have to
pull up this
spend too
graphic.
much more time on seeding.
No,
You have the
no.
graphic? Okay.
Yeah.
Just
I
wanted
just
everybody
had to.
to see this quickly. Yeah, so there's you can just zoom in there. So there's Denver at the top of the league, Lakers next, not surprising because JJ he's been really good at these after timeout plays. I get kind of annoyed when we're going on a run and the Lakers call a timeout cuz I'm like they're about to score out of this. Like it doesn't even matter what we do. So the difference here is it's not how much better are your ATO plays compared to the other team. It's how much better does uh your ATO play make your half court offense compared to how much better another team is at improving their half court offense out of after timeout. Okay. Which was the point I was trying to make at the beginning. I'm surprised the Pistons are here, but that could also be a their half court offense sucks so bad stat, right? Let me see where
Yeah.
the Pistons sit. Half court offense. Yeah, Detroit is 16th in half court offense. So, yeah. Um. Okay, we don't have to spend too much more time on the seeding stuff. Let's see. Denver's best outcome: get the 3 seed. Try to play fewer games than San Antonio or OKC. Like if you don't get the 3 seed, just try to play as few games as possible in round 1, and then try to finish whoever it is in 5 and go into round 2 relatively rested. Um yeah, then go into round 2, steal a game on the road. Try to win that series in 6 cuz whoever you're playing in the Western Conference Finals is going to be tough. Um but who knows, it might go 7 and whatever. Beggars can't be choosers. Especially if Denver gets knocked into the 4-5 bracket.
Yeah.
And then
I
the
agree.
other part of the ideal timeline I wrote here is that you end up playing the Rockets in the Western Conference Finals because they ended up knocking out OKC or San Antonio in round 2. um yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think a lot of it depends on us, like Minnesota being a easier series than it would think on the outset because of just how they've been. And there's a reason they're a 6 seed, like they haven't been playing that great. I know they have injuries, but they're
They were
definitely
the 6th seed
beatable.
last year and made it to the Western Conference Finals.
Who did they beat?
The Lakers. Who'd they play in round
Yeah,
2?
that's
Oh, the
easy.
Warriors in round 2 who were injured.
Easy, lucky matchups.
Oh.
Why can't we get one of those? Why can't we play the Warriors and the Lakers? Oh
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. It would have been great if we could have just gotten out of if we could have gotten the 3 and or no, I think if we could have stayed in the 4 and then San Antonio overtake OKC for 1. I think that would have been ideal because then it's like, okay, we're probably playing the Rockets or the Lakers round 1. And then
Mm-hmm.
San Antonio and then OKC.
Yeah.
But if you knew that OKC was definitely going to be in the Western Conference Finals, you kind of alluded to this earlier. Before they play Denver, would you rather play them earlier or later?
Sorry, OKC or Minnesota? Or
OKC. Would you
yeah,
rather
I
play
don't know.
OKC
I
in
can't
round 2 or
decide.
the conference finals?
I can't decide because we did lose to them in the second round last year, but we played them pretty well and almost won. We just needed a little bit more health and a little bit more depth.
Are you going to have more health in round 2 or round 3?
Probably round 2, judging how these things go.
That's the thing, right? And this is still very possible. Like, Denver is not a lock for the 3 seed. Like, it is definitely not set in stone right now.
Yeah.
And anything can happen on game 81, as we've learned.
Yeah. Real quick, do you trust AG Pwat Jones for 4 rounds?
I don't even know if Pwat and Spencer are going to be there for round 1. Like, I don't know if AG is going to be there for round 1. So no, I don't. Like, I don't trust their hamstrings.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of like the situation Denver's in right now.
I feel like, I mean, Spencer, yeah, he has a hamstring too. So it just takes so much time to heal them. It's ridiculous. It is funny that MPJ also has a hamstring, and I'm not saying.
Does he?
Oh, are they just? Is it fake?
I don't know. Like,
let's assume that it's real.
Okay.
And he was a Denver Nugget last year, and all these Nuggets. I know he played with the Nets this season.
Yeah, but you don't get. But if he was a Nugget this year, he might not have gotten the hamstring injury.
I think he would have gotten it, just like every other Nugget.
It's not preordained. Except
something the Nuggets are doing is fishy. I'm just saying. I don't know.
AGs are preordained. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd probably feel better about round 2 than round 3 for that exact reason. Like, I don't know how much longer AG's gonna hold up. When he got, kicked in the groin yesterday or elbowed in the groin, everybody kind of like gasped. I don't know if you were watching the game live at that point. I was just kind of like, well.
He kind of seized up versus the Spurs too, but he said it was like his calf.
Oh, great. Even better, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, good news. It's just a calf.
I'm just hoping for the best. We can't control it, but hopefully they're like on the mend. It's the best we can hope for.
All right, let's get to our last segment here because we don't have unlimited time today to go 3 hours long.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
We're going to talk about the bigger playoff question for each player. So here, I've actually got 2 questions that are, I think, important questions for each player that could play in the playoffs for Denver. So, like, Tyus Jones is not here, but who knows? He might end up playing. Who knows? And I'm gonna ask, or I guess we'll alternate. We'll take turns on like answering which one we think is a bigger question for each player. So we're gonna start with Jokic. Can he limit turnovers? Versus will Jokic be able to balance defense and offense in the same game across a series, across multiple series? That's been an issue for him, at least until like literally a week ago, in terms of being able to do both in the same game at like a Jokic level, like the standard that we hold him to, because that's kind of what the team is predicated on.
Can he handle defense and offense in the same game? What about turnovers? Are we asking that?
No, I said like which is the bigger question for like in terms of how much it's going to impact Denver. Can he limit the turnovers or the offense defense balance? Because like the can't if you choose can he limit the turnovers, you're basically saying like Jokic just needs to not be like total cone on defense, but we're going to supercharge everything on offense. And if he can limit turnovers, like we're going to score 120 plus almost every game. But if you think that it's more important for him to balance offense defense, then that's it's almost like the opposite. You've kind of answered the
he question. Had 0 turnovers against the Spurs, I believe.
Which was like, whoa.
And
the Spurs also didn't force a lot of turnovers. I need to see if they're a turnover forcing team. Not really. Like they're like 27th in turnovers forced, so they don't really try to. He did have 3, I think, in the last game against OKC, which was impressive. 3 or 4. Not even. I think it was like 3. I think we had like 7 as a team in that game.
Yeah. I just never really believed that the Jokic turnovers would remain in the playoffs. I just thought he needed to get healthy and be focused. Now the turnovers in the regular season have still continued more than I thought they were, so I get why it's a question. But I'll still be I will be surprised if it continues in the playoffs. Like I think he will button down and not just be so like I'm just gonna throw it up the court because Christian's gonna run. Like I think he's gonna be more intentional and he had some great plays versus the Blazers, with eyes in the back of his head, feeling the double team coming, things like that. And the chemistry with Cam, even in the starting lineups, getting better. And so with all the guys being in lockstep, I think that'll help with the turnovers too. And I think Jokic, he also showed pretty good defense against the Spurs, which will show.
Yeah. He was the only one I thought was playing good defense in that game, which was that's why the Spurs scored 130. I know it went to overtime, but they were kind of on track for that after the first half because we allowed over 70 points again. I think it's 72 points. They allowed 72 points for 3 games in a row in the first half, that is. But Jokic was the only one playing good defense in that game until the last 5 minutes, really.
Right, and then there were other guys, yeah. Chat's just saying that they think it's because of his injury and just not trying to run and just trying to pass up the court. And I think we have less guys that kind of can play in transition now that we don't have Russ and such. And there's just like less options to hit. Like it's pretty much only CB. And I feel like people know that and are jumping the passes. And Jokic isn't seeing them, which is also weird.
So other guys do. I don't think it's just the transition personnel. Like we've seen examples where like Jokic throws it directly to a guy on the other team, not even trying to throw it to CB. Although they are prioritizing Christian in transition, it's like that just means that somebody else is open. So like throw it to them, and then semi-transition is a thing, get the advantage, and then press forward.
I still just think the turnovers are a little fluky, and I think
he did have a lot. He had 6 versus Portland, so
yeah. I think
he's got to even it out. You can't go 0 and then another low turnover game. He's got to get the averages up.
I think him just like being putting in the effort on defense and doing what he's supposed to do at the level and switching up some coverages and stuff and doing what's required of him will help us out a lot more. And I think the turnovers I think he'll just lock it up. I think it's easier for him to fix. And I think him trying to figure out the balance of defense and offense is going to be more of a challenge. Like that is just harder to do. You're carrying the number 1 offense. And granted, he's like the best offensive player maybe ever. And we're going to have to rely on that for sure. But we know that if we just get some stops, we can really, like, our potential is to win a championship. And he doesn't have to be the centerpiece of the defense, obviously, because he's limited. He can't guard in space. He just does what he does. And
unfortunately, given the rest of what the other guys are doing, he is the centerpiece of the defense. So,
well, he's not going to be guarding the other team's best player, as Reggie Miller was bemoaning.
I don't really care about that. I don't care about that at all. Yeah, it's kind of crazy how much he's got on his plate defensively. Like, given this roster, why do we keep doing this? It's a weird way to be. All right, let's talk. Let's show some clips then from the Spurs game where Jokic demonstrated two-way dominance. Not dominant. I don't think he was dominant defensively. He's had better defensive games this season, but this one was really good. It was definitely up there. And especially relative. It was probably his best defensive game that was also at a high level offensive game for sure this season. Because I think in the other defensive games, it was very like, oh, he keeps missing bunnies or like he's turning the ball over, But this one was like really high level stuff on both ends. If you want to bring up the clutch defense on Fox clip first, this was one that was making the rounds. Jokic does a really good job of containing Fox on the perimeter on a switch. This is a late switch situation. Just kind of force him to make a second move. Was this? That one was the clutch defense on Fox clip?
Yes.
Oh.
It is in overtime. And he does get out on him.
It looks so different from the side angle camera that was going around online. So, you get like a late 3 for Julian Champagny, who did go 6 of 9 from 3 in this game, which was like annoying because he's a really great shooter and almost all of them were like open. But he's not going to make 100%, so that was something. Great help by Cam, I agree.
Yeah.
But you do leave Julian Champagny open, but it does force Fox to pass out and just kind of, go for a lower percentage shot, although a higher value shot than the kind of shot that Fox would have taken. But Jokic's defense right there was good regardless, because he didn't allow Fox to get in deep and like fully collapse the defense. Although that's not something that Fox does a lot, which is something that Spurs fans lament anyway. Let's go to the block on Champagny. I think this was in the third quarter as Denver was trying to, so they're trying to make their comeback here. They were down pretty big to start halftime, and then they kept kind of keeping it close-ish, and then the Spurs would go on runs. That's the thing, is like, I know the Spurs lost this game and everyone's like, oh, they choked at the end, whatever. The Spurs did a really good job, honestly, of like mostly answering our runs. It's just that Denver would not stop scoring in this game. And like, it's not even that the Spurs had like real lulls until overtime, which I thought they did, or like the last 2 minutes and overtime. But Denver just kept scoring. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, where I'm like, can we just play good enough defense and then have like a 140 offense?
Yeah.
So that the other team like has to keep up with that. Like every missed shot just makes things clench even more. That's the other thing about like your option earlier of like, I'd rather have our offense be electric even if we have trouble guarding the other team, because it puts more mental pressure on the other team to score, and that could result in more missed shots. Hopefully help our defense, right? Offense to defense pipeline.
But yeah, that was when do you see Jokic get a chase down block from behind like that, and where he's running and's got to actually jump? It's a rare one. I will say, like, really cool.
Champagny, like, he's definitely a below the rim player, kind of takes a low angle on that shot, makes it a little bit easier to block. If it was a different player, that's probably a foul. But I applauded the effort that Jokic took there to actually like sit down and guard on the perimeter.
That. And we needed it. I mean, we were down, and then we got AG hit a 3. For the listeners, AG did hit a 3 in transition on that one, which was a big one. And of course, he's been shooting really well.
Yeah.
Bot Palinka, Matt Moore said CB is a more complete player than Toumani Camara. Is that true?
I disagreed with that statement at the time. Why are you referencing stuff from 8 months ago? Like, this was a summer conversation. I disagree with that statement at the time. Like, I thought that the Blazers absolutely fleeced Toumani in that deal. I don't think that that's the maximum he could have gotten, but for some reason his agent took it. And yeah, I don't know. Why can't these shitty agents come represent players in Denver? Like Chemistry says, Grace, don't take this from us. This was the greatest block we'll ever see. I think Jokic has had better blocks than that. I'm the one that included it in the clip list, so I wanted to show it and talk about it. But I think Jokic has had some impressive.
He's had blocks at bigger moments that were like game saving.
Yeah,
blocks.
Like I think the one on Zion is like impressive because it's like it was just like a full on stuff like game winning block. That's in all the like highlight compilations of Jokic from before I was following the Nuggets. He's had blocks on like better players also.
Yeah. But it was cool to see the way he did it. It's definitely something we don't see a lot. So it was exciting.
GP of St. John, can we perfect the offense so much we don't have to play defense at all? These are the questions that Nikola Jokic asks himself every single day. All right, let's talk a little bit about the offense now in this game. Super high level stuff from Jokic against the Spurs. First, I want to talk about the late 3. I actually can't remember if this one was in regulation or overtime. If you could bring up
Here, RX Smart wants to see it one more time. Here it is.
All right.
Great block. Cam in transition. Over to Gordon for the three. Here you go, friends.
Beautiful.
Chat. One last time for that beauty.
That was
All right, let's look
2014
at this 3-pointer.
Spursian stuff. All right. So horns into double drag to pick and pop kind of situation going on here between Jokic and Jamal. So they start off in horns, turns into a double screen between like AG and Jokic, and then Jokic pops out for three, forces Wemby to like try to make a decision. In part because like we talked about or we mentioned Castle being really hard to screen. Now he's got to get over two guys. I think probably what the Spurs end up doing here, because I didn't see them do it a lot in this game, or maybe at all, is they'd probably go on to veer switching Castle. Castle takes Jokic, and then Wemby just takes Jamal, and they kind of go from there. And I think Denver would probably count. Maybe they actually did. They did end up switching Castle onto Jokic, I think, once in overtime, and Jokic just kind of posted him up. But he had very active hands. It was very much like a situation I've seen with OKC where they just like the small just kind of gets really handsy and like forces a turnover, or like other guys pinch in while he's trying to post up the small and force a turnover. So that's something to look out for. But that's something the Spurs haven't gotten to yet. But
that's what I'm kind of waiting for.
Making threes again. Yay. And the fact that he's willing to take that shot and like pop out to three and be willing to take that shot, I think is really important. Just kind of make Wemby and Castle have to think a little bit in that situation. Yeah, and I mostly wanted to play that clip to highlight that dynamic with Castle on Jamal and how much it takes to kind of get him off of Jamal in that situation, and create enough space that Jokic can kind of do his thing and force Wemby to think. Nick John says, I'm certain Jokic can jump higher than his official vertical if needed. I mean, with a running start, sure. I mean, his vertical is usually it's a standing vertical. I don't think that Jokic can jump as high as his listed standing vertical anymore, because that was back when he was like 19 or whatever.
Yeah. To go back to this play, one of the questions I did have, and it wasn't like an official question for our show, but how will Jokic's three look in the playoffs? And it's not like it's been gone or whatever, but I just don't know.
Not as good as last year, that's for sure.
Yeah, we'll see. I almost look like Wemby, like Jamal did extend that play for the pocket pass to get him the three, and it was great to have Castle have to go over multiple screens. I think that's important to get Jamal space. But it was almost like Wemby wanted Jokic to shoot that and didn't think he would make it.
And like, I mean, even if he thought he would make it, we talk about this all the time. Well, Jokic's threes do not change how the defense is guarding. Okay. They don't change the defense's like general behavior. Like sometimes instead of just like letting him shoot that three, they'll start veer switching just to like put a body on him out there on the perimeter. But they're not going to change the behavior of the big. It's not going to change the behavior of the big. But what it can do is punish the behavior of the big. Right?
Yeah.
That's the difference between Jokic's threes and Jamal's threes. Like you saw in the last couple of games, like after Jamal just went on this ridiculous hot streak of threes, breaks the franchise record for, season number of threes in a season and all that. He's getting doubled even more than he already was this season. Doubled and trapped, like higher at the line and chased. Even in situation like we saw at the end of the Portland game, him get doubled at the 3-point line, and they kind of left Jokic open in the middle of the floor. Right? That's the difference, is like Jamal's threes can change the defense's behavior. Jokic's threes can only punish it, or largely punish it. Okay.
Yeah. And as Vyacheslav pointed out, there is less pressure for Jokic to have to make threes because we do have more shooting than last year. And even though you can argue for Jokic's three to give him space and all that and keep the defense honest, we needed it last year because we didn't have anyone else who was shooting threes besides Aaron Gordon, of course. But yeah, this year we have so many guys making shots. It's amazing.
Will, you had a clip here with a Jokic floater that you wanted to show?
I just thought similar to the last play where, Jokic's gravity and giving Wemby a question of how to cover it. It's an interesting little match where it's like, yeah, another little action inside. Jamal setting a screen and Aaron
Inverted pick
Gordon's
and
digging
roll.
down. Yeah, so you
Yeah.
got inverted pick and roll. And Wemby does a weird kind of spin move coverage where he spins and gonna act like he's gonna go down in the paint. And the Spurs player tries to kind of hedge on Jokic to slow him down a bit, but Jokic can already get to the floater really quickly and Wemby
Kind
didn't
of a
even
long
contest
shot,
that.
though.
Yeah,
Jamal
long
was open
shot.
there. Christian was open there. But if we want to stop making the game or stop the game from being dependent on Christian making threes, although he did make 5 threes in this game, he's going to have to take and make that shot a lot. And not just his floater, but that long of a floater. Because if you hesitate and you get too close, too deep, then Wemby's going to, have an angle to block that shot or contest it really well.
Yeah, for sure. So, but I mean, Jokic's long floater and even long mid range jumper in that game over Wemby was really
Yeah, if you
important.
could
He
play
was
if you could play
crazy.
the clutch midi, it was out of
Yeah,
basically the same action on the other side of the floor
yeah,
here. They try to run split. Goes through, except it's AG setting the screen here for Yoke, and then Champagne tries to hedge out, gives him just enough of an angle or just enough of a
yeah,
window to get this shot off, and he
yeah. As soon
drains
as they
it.
try to switch back, he's instantly shooting it and it's going in.
Jokic is shooting 56% from mid range this season on almost 2 attempts per game.
It's so crazy. And it's
More.
it's almost scary to want to rely on Jokic to hit that shot all the time versus the Spurs. And it is a good way to score on Wemby, but he can do it just because he's so good. It's just crazy.
Yeah, better than a turnover or a block, which turns into a turnover for a run out when it comes to the Spurs. The Spurs versus our transition defense, anyway. You have another one here, pick and roll jumper.
Yeah. Let's look at that because I think pull it up. So it's another double screen. Obviously, CB setting the screen for Jamal on Castle just to get him behind, and then Jokic kind of hits him again. It's a handoff, and then Wemby has to help on this pocket pass, similar to the other one. And this one, Wemby really goes for. He's
He's
not
there.
hesitating. He's
Yeah.
right there, and Jokic just rainbow shoots it over him too, and that was in overtime. And we'll show the other
hot.
amazing shots that he had. Yeah, let's go to the soundboard. Let's just go right
Yeah,
into it.
let's just roll the soundboard. I really just had this one in here as fan service. There's not much to it. Post ISO, fakes a pass to get Vassell from to keep Vassell from helping, but I mean Vassell could have helped and he still would have had to hit this tough turnaround going the other way. Boop. And every time there's a bunch of low camera angles that have been circulating about through this shot. Even if he couldn't block it, Wemby contested this really well. I'm not sure that Jokic could see the middle of the basket from where he was. Maybe he could because he's not where the low camera angles is. But Wemby's very tall and he was closer to Jokic than obviously the camera was. Yeah. So
Yeah, that was just. I mean, it was great to be able to talk about Jokic still being the best in the world and his patented shot over Defensive Player of the Year and gonna probably beat him in MVP voting. Yeah, it was just beautiful. Love
I
to
hope
see
that game
Jokic.
changed some of that because even if you're kind of down on Jokic's number one MVP case, being kind of undeniable as I think that it largely was, and I thought that he should have won MVP last year too. Being beyond second place this season doesn't make any sense to me. The Spurs have been fantastic without Wemby. And I know the Nuggets were able to survive without Jokic, but it's so clear how much more dependent they're or how much better they are with Jokic on the floor than off. And even games missed. Like, yeah, they were surviving when he was out, but like they have like a 130 offensive rating with this dude on the floor. That's
Yeah.
obscene. It's not just absurd, it is obscene, actually. And like, how awesome would it be if we could keep that going into the playoffs? I don't know how good the offense is going to be in the playoffs. Like, I know it's going to be good, but if we can make it like like white hot like that, that's that's how they can win a championship. Maybe that's
Yeah.
asking too much, but that's like that's an absurd number. Like these are video game numbers.
Yeah, it was great to see. And it has changed the dialogue a bit. And I've seen some, public figures and talking heads giving Jokic credit finally and talking about how he's been taken for granted and some amazing stats out there. And it is funny how if people aren't pushing like the Jokic narratives, how quickly they can fall off. But
And you know what? Like I appreciate Wemby he like trying to be kind of a little shit stirrer, and he knows exactly what he's doing. After that game when he called Jokic the best offensive player in the league, I'm like, he's a best fan player in the league. Mr.
yeah,
Defense matters, two-way, blah, blah, blah. We saw what wins when he played you, who is clearly the best defensive player in the league, and it did not matter. Okay. His
I
offense is more
know.
important
Oh,
than defense.
I
And I
love
was
it for
like, you
that
know what?
reason.
You little you little shit. You know exactly what you're doing. And I appreciate it because it fuels us. It fuels all of us. Okay.
Mhm. And
Okay.
I didn't include the clip of like the little the play where Wemby kind of lost Jokic and he hit the just kind of layup off the backboard. He kind of threw it up right at the end of overtime, but that was great too that he hit that. It was like that one and then the
Are you
Sombor were
talking
like
about
the two big
the
ones.
one where like I think Fox is the one that loses Jokic because they're zoning up on that play
Wemby,
where
I
it's like a
mean
little
Wemby should have been
floater.
there. Wemby should have been there on Jokic for sure and just kind of gets lost. I don't know what his reasoning was, but I'm just saying he wasn't there and was kind of coming back late and Jokic was able to get it up and
Yeah,
in.
because
Yeah.
they were zoned. That was a Fox mistake on
Okay.
that play.
Okay.
Like if anything, Wemby was like trying to recover to like cover up a mistake that happened on that play. But yeah, that was a Fox mistake, which
Yeah.
Spurs fans were very also just
Mm.
not the most thrilled about his defense in particular. If Denver gets into a series with the Spurs, although they have Castle and Kelton Johnson has been pretty good as a perimeter defender too. They don't have guys that are like, oh my god, scary. Like in terms of like, wow, they could really like shut down your perimeter for a whole possession, like Dort, Caruso, Case and Wallace, etc. And there are guys you can straight up attack, unlike OKC. You can attack Julian Champagny, you can attack Fox. Not just like in isolation or not even just in pick and roll. Like you can put them into all kinds of actions, force them to have to communicate and do all this stuff. And I think they're more mistake prone than the OKC players are. So that's another, notch in the tick in the column for the Spurs being the better matchup.
Yeah.
All right, you've got Jokic on the roaming big, and this will be our last Jokic clip, and then we gotta kind of
Yeah.
try
We're
to speed run
gonna.
through everybody else.
Okay. So it was one of those things where obviously Drew Holiday's on Jokic in this play, and teams have been trying to use guards. Other teams, obviously, we've seen in the past in the playoffs going with a double big look where you have like the other bigger center roaming in the back. This play just reminded me of that, and we don't have a lot of clips of Jokic from the Blazers, so I just wanted to bring this up and
Yeah.
something that the Spurs could try. There are some times where they got a switch, and Jokic tried to score on the mismatch with Wemby maybe coming to roam and help, but so like Klingin
And
rotates over, and
look
Jokic
at
just
that
floats it above
wingspan,
him.
man. He did my guy clinging really dirty,
And I
which,
think it's just
Jokic is
funny
also
coming
my guy. But
coming off the Wemby game, and it's like, Jokic kind of needs some games, or in the past has needed some games to figure out specific centers and how they guard him. But if you can figure out Wemby, it's like you can figure out pretty much any center in the league, and
yeah,
including
but Wemby's
Klingon. So
evolving. He's like a
Yeah, of
Pokemon.
course.
He's
That's what
already
I'm
better
saying.
than
Yeah.
he was rookie season. Like he's way more defensively sound than rookie year. It was pure talent and the fact that nobody knew like what to do to deal with him. Now it's
Yeah.
like, oh crap, he's actually figuring out fundamentals and using his talents in the most uh like the most impactful ways. Not just, jumping after every like trying to get every block and like stuff like that. So that's scary for the league. Unless you're Nikola Jokic, then he just sees it as a challenge. All right, let's get to the next question here. Next player here, Jamal. Okay. The two questions I have for him going into the playoffs are, and which do you think is more important? Will he maintain volume shooting from three versus can he not be a bottom fifth percentile defender? This is a guy that we need to hold up. But Will, which do you think is more important for Denver going into this playoff run?
I think the volume threes.
Mm. So, like,
Yeah.
what volume? How many threes per game do you want to see Jamal getting up?
How many?
Yeah, his average right now is like 7 point something on the season. I think
I mean,
7.6,
I think that's even fine. I don't know what that is compared to his other averages,
7.5.
but
Yeah,
I know he just had his highest volume 3-point shooting game the other day.
he's
I
doing
think he
that
had
in
six and
35
threes.
minutes per game, by the way. So maybe that just increases with more minutes in the playoffs. But you also know that playoff defenses are going to be more keyed in on that, so it might just even out.
Yeah. I just think Jamal like he can be fine as a defender, but I don't think he's never gonna reach the heights of like a real defender. And it's like, can he not be like the bottom, like you're saying? Sure, yeah. But I still just think the identity of the team and Jamal just being able to hit threes and to continue to shoot them is gonna be the more of a difference maker for our success in the playoffs. Because if he just like stops taking threes or like it's not hitting them, like we're almost like just not even the Nuggets anymore. At least the way our offense has been playing
Mm.
this season.
I get that. So a lot of these you're going to be talking about leaning into Denver's
Yeah,
identity and just like
maybe.
we're going to try to blow this out and just like maximize what we can on that end of the floor and just hope that the other side doesn't fall apart basically.
Yeah.
Um okay. You've got a couple of clips here, Jamal, that you wanted to show before we move on to our next player. RX Smart says, Grace, which one are you taking? Jamal averaging 25 ugly with bad defense, or Jamal averaging 18 with 9 to 11 assists, 1 to 2 turnovers, and good defense? I take the latter because if Jamal's averaging 18, but it's off of threes, like I don't care what other shots Jamal's taking, if especially if he's getting 9 to 11 assists on like a high assist to turnover ratio. That kind of reminds me of what he did kind of during like versus the Spurs because he wasn't getting a lot of shots off against Castle, and that just might be the kinds of games that he'll need to have against OKC and San Antonio to be his most effective within the flow of like what Denver's offense needs from him in order to get to that level. So I would take the latter of those options. But sorry, Will, you can go ahead and play your clip there.
Yeah. So as I was saying with Jamal earlier versus the Spurs, he had a lot of shots and looks coming off of actions. Um, Obviously, this is like a pin down screen as well, where he's like running off a little brush
And
screen.
look at how
But
Castle stays with him, man. I
yeah,
wish Castle's not a skinny guy, Christian. You taking some notes here, okay? That's
yeah,
all I'm saying. Like that's
yeah. Learn how to get
not really an excuse.
skinny. Learn how to get skinny from
Learn how to
Castle.
get
But yeah,
skinny.
Castle's right here. This is one of the only plays where Jamal just kind of created for himself, and he hit a floater over Wemby and like goes by Castle, shoots the like floater over Wemby, which is a very tough shot. But
High
I'm just
argument there.
always I'm always just looking for ways that Jamal can create, like even just for himself, even against tough defenses, because we've been asking about what's the best matchup for Jamal. How is he going to create? How's he going to take pressure off of Jokic? He's playing his best basketball, all NBA player. So I just want to see how he's creating. And that was a really fun one. And then just in terms of having a clip just for fun. The dunk to kind of seal the Blazers game, and another
Punctuation.
another situation where we love pointing out that oftentimes in these actions, bigs cannot help at all off of Jokic, so Robert Williams is going to stay there. Weirdly enough, Scoot doesn't stunt or help off of Christian Brown one pass away on the three, which he probably should have. And Matisse Thybulle staying home on
He
Aaron
does
Gordon in
kind
the
of
dunker
step
spot.
in, but he's not like hard helping. Everybody else is there too. Like I wouldn't blame Scoot necessarily.
I just think it was an opportunity. Like we've been talking about people helping off CB. Like, wouldn't you rather CB taking a three than Jamal just getting an open dunk?
Yeah,
I would. So,
sure.
but yeah.
And the nice thing there is another one where you've got Jokic on the roaming big, but Robert Williams isn't roaming that much there. It's like, okay, Matisse Thybulle's the low man, whatever. I'm going to go up with this.
Because if he can't help there, because otherwise it's just going to be easy dunk for Gordon. So he was kind of like, well, what do I do? But yeah, I'm excited for Jamal in this playoffs.
So for AG, I tried to come up with something, but there's literally nothing. It's really just, will you maintain enough calf and hamstring muscle to make it through a playoff run? And like not have, will your, like, can it be like not his injuries be the reason that we go out?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. What can you say about AG's shots on? Can he play intense? Like everything's tied into his health. How intense of defense can he play through a whole series?
I don't even care about that. I just want him on the floor. Like literally, I don't care about anything. I'm like you, Will. I'm just like, let defense schmefense, right? Just be on the floor, okay? Because it's gonna be worse without him. Like however bad it is, it gets worse without him.
I mean, we just saw in the last play again, like him just being in the dunker spot.
If he needs to play like really bad perimeter defense for 2.5 quarters in order to make it through every game, then that's fine with me. That's just like, if that's just how it's got to be, because we're not making it through anything if he can't stay healthy. So that's all I've got for AG. But I mean, let's talk about. I've got some clips of his two-way impact. Really, let's first clutch defense on Wemby here. Just kind of keep Wemby in front, force him off his spot a little bit, force him into a jumper, which is not hard. Wemby loves to take jumpers. He took exclusively jumpers in the fourth quarter and overtime. Except maybe there was a putback in there when I was going back through the play-by-play logs, and I was like, that's interesting. That's interesting. It'd be crazy as if Wemby developed like a consistent floater. Oh my God, that'd be scary. Nobody tell him I said that.
But him going for a fadeaway jumper that's ballsy.
You can go to the second Wemby defense clip here as well. This was the one. This is the one on Fox. So this is good too. So you got Christian here. They switch Christian who was guarding Fox. They had AG on Wemby and they switched that action. And then Christian is doing a decent job of fronting, but I think I saw a lot of Spurs fans talking about how they wanted Fox to just like lob it over the top here. I'm like, if you get it high enough, Christian's not going to get that ball. But then Fox then decides, I'm just going to attack AG here. Jamal comes to help a little bit on the drive, and he kind of bobbles the ball and misses that shot that the Spurs could have used to ice the game. Like they a 2 or a 3 there could have iced the game effectively. So
that was a big possession. They score there, and it's probably over.
Honestly, like he was kind of the subject of a lot of Denver's best possessions on both ends of the floor.
I did kind of feel like he had a lot of missed opportunities in that game where he really could have punished us. So yeah.
Then there's the second Wemby defense clip here for AG. I think this one was in overtime. Oh no. That's the game tying dunk. Do you have Wemby defense too?
No.
Okay, that's fine. You can just play the game tying dunk clip. We know what AG can do against Wemby. He's a pretty good perimeter defender against bigger players, especially bigger players that don't have like a quick first step. And Wemby's really long, but he's not gonna, he's not gonna blow by anybody. You can go ahead and play the game tying dunk here. So they put Julian Champagny on AG for some reason, and I thought that was just an interesting decision by San Antonio here because he goes to help on Jokic's drive in a way that I didn't quite understand. Like at this point, you just kind of let Jokic do what he's doing, but it at this honestly, it was too late for him to try to recover to AG, and this was just like a deft pass by Jokic. A lot of people pointed out, like, oh my god, what a play by DA. Yes, and also I have no idea what Julian Champagny thought he was going to be doing on this possession. And I don't know why the Spurs thought they had 2 timeouts left. If they wanted to sub him back in for offense, it would have made a lot, like they could have easily done that. So I don't know what they thought the benefit was to keeping Champagny on the floor for an exclusively defensive possession in that situation.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things is like mistakes of young teams. And this was maybe like a Mitch Johnson error. He's like, well, the guys that are playing the best stay on the floor, like regardless of if it's offense or defense. And that bothers me sometimes, even when it ends up working out for Denver. But it was also like a Julian Champagny, like, where's your head? Kind of
If he didn't go out and switch there, do you think Jokic would have just scored super easy though? Or do you, because Wemby was a little bit behind.
Maybe, but you can't just leave somebody open. They were up 2. It's whatever. I guess they were willing to give up. I don't know what the purpose of the switching was. They were like Denver wasn't going for a 3.
I think it's just because Wemby got caught on the screen. I think that they were already planning to switch. That's why they had him out.
Well, then why didn't Wemby? Then somebody messed up. Then Wemby needs to with AG because it's only 6 seconds at that point. If Jokic then tries to like back down Champagny, then and try to score,
or they didn't want to switch.
Wemby can help, but
yeah, they didn't want to switch because Wemby was already on.
Then
Jokic,
like, what was Champagny doing? That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. But anyway, great. Just AG always being exactly in the position, Jokic getting the passing angle on that right, and then perfect game tying dunk, and then he obviously gets the stop on the other end after this to send it to overtime. We would definitely. I have the question here: would we attack Champagny more in a series? We absolutely would. Both Champagny and Fox. I don't think that we pushed that button a lot in this game, but we obviously did in key moments with both Fox and Champagny, and that is something that makes me feel a little bit better about the matchup, which is crazy because we still scored at an obscene rate. But then the question is like, well, how much better could the offense be if we were, really exploiting these mismatches? Yeah.
And like chemistry, bringing up the experience and questioning that, and like you said on that play, and definitely is something that could be in our favor. Where I think we showed that we knew exactly how to execute in that like situation, and the Spurs were kind of guessing like, what levers do we pull, what do we go to, and like Wemby.
I felt like I felt it more on offense than defense, honestly, because in defense, like I don't fault teams for doing too much against or not being able to get stops against Denver because they try a lot of different stuff. It's not really like a scheme or execution thing. That one was like a big mistake. But the Spurs are actually pretty. GP of St. John says, when did Wemby become so cocky? I mean, he's been told that he's going to be like the best player ever since teenagerdom. I think he's probably been cocky since before he entered the league because all of these guys are. You have to be to be able to perform at the level that they do with the pressure that they have on them. But he's definitely played it up a little bit more over the last like year and a half. But I think he's leaning. He leans into it for the kayfabe, and I appreciate that.
Oh man, it annoys me for sure. I'm not a Wemby fan.
It's working.
I hate it.
then he's achieving his end.
I think he's done nothing, and he's acting like he's already won 6 championships. He's insane. But yeah,
does he act like that? That's not the vibe I get. I think he acts like somebody who's like genuinely hungry too. Like he feels more like 07 to 09 and maybe like 20, like 07 to 011 LeBron. where it's like
Yeah.
like takes it seriously. Like, I want to win like as much as possible, and maybe taking himself a little bit too seriously. But I think he also knows that he's leaning into the entertainment aspect a bit, which, I mean, you could say the same about LeBron at that stage as well.
Yeah, the thing that I would say about Wemby, and I'm glad you brought up LeBron because I always bring up LeBron as the comparison where, like, obviously LeBron had whatever the decision and moments where people didn't like him were because he seemed cocky and the not one, not two, not five, not six, whatever, that was his biggest kind of mistake. Um, but then after he won the Lakers championship, I remember they asked him like who would be better, like LeBron right now or LeBron like with the Heat, like winning, at that time. And he was like, "Oh, I'm so much better just because I know so much more." Like, and I know that I didn't know that as much back, when I was with the Heat, and I had so much to learn still. And I feel
He
like
still
that's
had
got
stuff to learn at
it
that
is.
point, which is like his athleticism had significantly declined.
Yeah, and Wemby's definitely relying completely on talent and his size and his just like crazy, yeah, which is whatever. Like that's what he's got to do. But I think there's a lot of room to like learn how to execute and be more like fundamentally sound in a lot of ways that he still has a lot to learn. And him just acting like he's already figured it out just rubs me the wrong way. It's like those first year college students who like they take one class on theory or something and they're like, I know everything about this subject. And he just like that's what he comes off to me like he's not proved anything yet, and but whatever, he's gonna be a great player, he's probably gonna be like a multi MVP, so it'll come, so whatever.
Whatever. Definitely going to be a multi depoy. Dahlia, Wemby's been told he's a prodigy since he was a child. I mean, his body is a prodigy. Like, um, let's see the basketball IQ come out a little bit more. He's just
Yes.
some French dude. That is crazy. All right, let's talk about Cam Johnson next. Okay. And I think we'll probably cut this off after the starters. We could talk a little bit more about the bench guys and the questions around them in our playoff series preview, because I think that like
Okay.
specific questions about them will probably be more relevant on a series by series basis, because the question for any one bench player is really going to be like, can you consistently be X, or can you do this one thing consistently even if you're inconsistent at everything else, because that's what differentiates starters from bench players in this league, right?
Yeah, let's do that.
But let's talk about Cam Johnson, who's had one interesting season for sure. The questions that I have for him are, can he stay out of his head on offense versus can he maintain defensive impact even through physicality? And there's one, maybe one and a half matchup in particular that I have in mind when I think about Cam struggling with physicality in the past. So which do you think will be more important for Denver? I think I have an idea of what your answer is going to be.
Yeah, well, because I've been going more with like the strength, so I guess you would assume I might say offense. Is that what you're assuming? But I'm actually struggling because I'm like, with him being one of our best defensive perimeter players, like I almost would be willing him to sacrifice.
Unplayable. Like that's a disaster for Denver if he's rendered unplayable, because like that one game against OKC was a disaster.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just one game. Like he wasn't really great in the last one either. That was kind of his last like really bad game. I would say it was the last matchup against and then Cam's been great ever since, but he hasn't been great in that matchup. And the other one that worries me is also like a probable one for Denver at this point is against the Wolves for the same reason.
Yeah. Yeah, he wasn't that great against the Wolves, as Empire Jeff superfan Emily is bringing up. It's just tough. I'm torn on this one. I don't know that I have a clear answer because he needs to be a two-way player because we just don't have really any two-way players on the team.
And Cam can't get taken out of a series by physicality because Denver needs him on offense too, just as a connector, as a shooter. Like the fact that he is not 6'5" or shorter and DA is willing to play him is like a big deal, because if Cam has to play less, that means Tim has to play more, or God forbid, Tyus Jones or Jalen Pickett have to pick up some minutes elsewhere. So I think there's a lot of like second order knock on effects to Cam getting like mentally and physically taken out of a series that are like one of the more non-health related like this could be like catastrophic for Denver in a series because it would reveal a lot of weaknesses like below him in that pecking order.
Yeah. I'm with light chemistry here. I don't think Cam will be taken out of a series. I'm pretty confident in him right now. I get the concern though, for sure. I am more worried that CB's unplayable than Cam. I don't know if I'm just being, I guess the word you could say is tricked in a way, because Cam looks so confident on his shot that I'm almost like I'm completely bought in on it. That I guess now I'm more worried about the defense because I just feel like the offense is gonna be there. Like I just am so confident.
I don't trust either to be there in a playoff setting, to be honest, because a lot of this is like March basketball and who knows. Okay, I trust the defense to be there outside of certain matchups because that's been there ever since like game 5 of the season. And I've been consistent about this when it comes to Cam. But there have been like 5 games this season where you're like, wow, Cam was actually the problem today. Like the problem, which is crazy because like there's so many problems defensively on this team. But the rest of the time, it's like, nope, Cam did his job. He was the only one. Yeah, I this is definitely one that concerns me, and especially in the context of like Peyton's week to week right now. Okay, buddy. So we need you to at least hold up for a series defensively. And then offensively, like I do think that it's easier for him to okay, that's not true. Because come playoff time, I think hesitation gets punished more. Like hesitation on offense gets punished more in the playoffs because defenses are so keyed in on you. And like if you hesitate, like the defense is going to pounce and they're going to try to keep like funneling the ball to that guy. And be like, nope, we're not gonna let you make a play after you've like thought about it for a second. Like you need to be really like on it. And I think they're both equally important in a playoff setting. In the regular season, I would say the more important thing was for him to, like in a one game situation, it was going to be maintaining the defensive impact through physicality. Because I think even when he's in his ed on offense, he's a really impactful offensive player just by being on the floor and being like a connective passer and all of that. Kind of like Christian, right? Like they both suffer from the same like hesitation and I got to get the ball to like Jamal or Jokic and like hot potato kind of situation. But in the playoffs, I think that is punished a lot more than it is in the regular season to the point where it becomes as meaningful as getting taken out with physicality, body
Yeah.
physicality.
We had a chat question about McDaniels on Cam, and that is like a scenario. You know, we've seen Jaden McDaniels take MPJ completely out of a series versus Minnesota. Do you feel like he
Has
could have
Cam
anything
not been
to?
in the playoffs since 2021? It's 22.
He
Maybe
definitely didn't
when
with the
he was
Nets.
in the KD trade
Yeah,
where the Suns were in the playoffs in 22. So I guess it was then. That's 4 years that he hasn't experienced like especially Western like he didn't even make the playoffs in the they did make the playoffs in the East in 23 for a series. They got swept by the Sixers. But he hasn't experienced like real like Western Conference physicality in the playoffs in 4 years. So that's going
yeah,
to
I think that's
be
why. But I
interesting.
think he really liked that Spurs game and it being like a playoff intensity again. And he talked about that on his podcast. And I think he's fitting in more now with the team. And I think he's liking the intensity and being part of the winning culture that we have right now. And obviously, we won over 50 games despite the injuries. And so, yeah, I think he'll be fine. Cam's a vet. He's smart. But like you said, he's got to stay out of his head and does have to be physical, not get bothered by other teams' athleticism. And real quick, before we go on, RX Smart brought up earlier wanting to keep Cam and Pwat, and obviously we're not going to go over like
We don't
summer
have the time for
stuff
that.
extensively, but like, yes, I would love to keep both of them. But I get that the idea is getting off Cam's salary to keep Pwat. But I have seen a lot of pushback from people on Nuggets Twitter saying that they would much rather keep Cam than Pwat. So
That's interesting. I'm
yeah,
surprised at the pushback. That just
yeah,
tells you how big of a turnaround Cam has had over the last month.
yeah, yeah. People are like, I will do something. I will be so pissed. Like big accounts being like, I'll be pissed if they choose Pwat over Cam. And I'm like, wow, okay, here we go.
Let's see. All right, the last one we'll go over here is our starting shooting guard, Christian Brown. And this is a doozy because the two questions I've got for him are, can he take and make shots versus oh wait, we didn't get to play the clips of Cam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's do that
We can
because
do
we
some
want to
Cam
give
clips.
Cam some flowers for the kind of impact that he can have, especially offensively. So clutch shots versus the Spurs here. Hang on, this is first quarter.
Yeah, this is like this is one of the first shots that was first shot of the game, obviously. But then, yeah, later on we had these
Oh yeah.
shots in the fourth. So yeah.
So I mean, these were important because they're like really high leverage, high pressure. Fox.
This was the and one.
Gives Cam. There's a lot of Fox on low lights in the Denver highlights. I gotta say. And then he doesn't hesitate, hits this and 1-3. And there were 9 seconds left on the clock. He could have been like, oh, I can like pass it around the perimeter or like try to get it back into Jokic. But no, he was ready to catch a ball, take that shot, make that shot, which is, we love that from Cam. You had a couple more clips of him here. The first one was some pick and roll with Jokic. GP of St. John
Yeah.
GP of St. John says Cam had a longer adaptation process to the Nugget system than people expected, but he will be fine. That's the hope. That's the hope.
I'm confident. But there was one more clutch shot in overtime. He was pretty,
yeah,
a deep three. Didn't hesitate. Very confident.
This is the one where I was like, oh, they might actually win this game, which is funny because they were literally up in overtime. But I don't believe in hope. So
yeah. Yeah, that was a big shot. And then, I'm always looking for, Cam to be more than just a spot up shooter.
The crowd pop even without the sound.
I know, and Cam is just like, it's like when CB or, someone, not that Cam's threes are unexpected, but, when a player is making the shot that they were brought in to kind of make, when CB hits a three, everyone's like, that's like found money. We want to see this from Cam. That's why we traded for him. So, and so there is something at stake to like actually see him succeed. But I just thought Cam, operating with, some pressure on the ball and pushing a guy off in the paint and going back for a floater. Yeah. Like he has had a nice floater game recently and just nice touch in the paint that this is just like quick on his feet.
If you're gonna veer switch, I'm gonna take advantage of the step that I got on my guy on this pick and pop. So I love to see that.
I really like seeing him play like that inside. It looks easy. But then obviously we're not going to see this type of thing a lot because the regular season's coming to an end. And I used to say all we need in a stagger unit is Val and Cam, and like we're going to be really good off the bench. Doesn't even matter who's around them. Didn't really turn out that way, but this clip is a pick and roll with Cam and Val, and like this is just like a crisp pocket pass. The finish was a little bit took some time to get that hook shot around.
Yeah, but it was nice. I mean, it was a pretty crisp finish. You just got to get the footwork right, especially like look at Klingon has like a 7'5" wingspan, I think. So I think that people underestimate how good of a rim protector he is and how many adjustments it takes. That's why I was impressed by that floater that Jokic had over him. It's like, yeah, it's not Wemby's like freaking 8-foot wingspan, but it's still, formidable. 7'7" wingspan. Okay. Like it's no joke.
And it was just such a good crisp pocket pass. That was almost like a no look. I think he wasn't even looking at all.
He needed to get Klingon under the basket. and made sure that he adjusted the angle of the little hook shot to get a little bit over those fingertips even at that point. So I liked it. That was actually one of the more crisp Val kind of paint like hook shots that I've seen in terms of like the footwork being precise and the timing being right. He was just precise with it, even if he took his time. Yeah.
All right. Go to
Okay,
CB. Here we
now we
go.
can
The
move
big
on to
one.
Christian. Last starter here. Can Christian Brown take and make shots versus will he be a positive impact perimeter defender across series?
I feel like in the ideal world, I would love CB to just step up and be a very good perimeter defender at this point. I feel like it would go a long way to making us a little more successful just because we haven't had that at all. But I don't think he has the capability to do it.
That's not true. Like, I'm not letting him off the hook. Like, he's literally done it. He's done it for stretches of last season, even when he was like very bad for most of last season. He did it in the playoffs. I thought, despite like some KYP, I was going to say CYA, some KYP issues, know your personnel issues in the playoffs at times, but then he would kind of get better as the series went on, like against Harden. I thought he was pretty good against Shea for like most of that series, to be honest. And then he had the one great game against him this year, and then one where he just got, barbecue roasted. I don't think I think this has been his worst defensive season, which is saying something because last year was bad. He's getting blown by. He's not really getting bullied like he was last year against like some bigger players. So that's something, I guess. But the blow-bys are worse because like that's who he's guarding most of the time is like quicker guys. And I don't mean like it's not always super quick guys. It's like Devin Vassell, who doesn't have what I would consider to be for the NBA a top tier first step, especially compared to a guy with Christian's foot speed. Or I mean, Keldon Johnson, like he needs to be able to lock down somebody that he should be able to lock down. Right. And I don't care if he's making his threes as long as he's taking them. Just don't turn the ball over and don't hesitate. Like, don't waste possessions in either way. And I do think that tossing a grenade to Jamal or Jokic with 4 seconds left on the clock constitutes wasting a possession, by the way.
Yeah, okay? It could be for sure.
And I would rather you just take the three because even if you miss it, like we might get the offensive rebound. Okay. Mm-hmm.
And you might make it. And you might make it. Open three.
But I think that as long as he's taking the shots, I would rather him be a better defender than he's been and just has not been there this year. That was everyone was like, "Oh, Grace, like you advocated for the extension." I'm like, "Yeah, I wanted them to do the extension. I didn't love the number. I didn't think it was the worst thing in the world. But one of the reasons that I wanted him to get extended last summer and not this upcoming summer is I did not want another season with a contract extension hanging over his head and thinking about like offense over defense. I wanted the defense to finally start to improve. And it just has not been that this summer, this whole year. And I get it. Like he was waiting on his extension. So he wasn't, in the best shape in the summer. Cause like everybody like downs their training as they're waiting on extensions because they don't want to get injured, et cetera, before they've got the guaranteed money. Okay. Which is one of the reasons I was annoyed that the front office took until like the end of summer to get that extension done. Okay. But it's like, all right, dude, like money's there. Like you need to figure out how to be a positive impact defender. Cause like the team is, we just don't have right now it's Cam Johnson and we don't know if he's going to be able to hold up through physicality. We don't even know if Peyton Watson's going to be available by the time, the playoffs start or like who knows when, because we don't know how far Denver is going to end up going. Right. Yeah. So we need him to step up on that end of the floor. AG is not what he used to be. Like he's going to do what he can in like certain moments, but like that's what like there is a deficit on that end of the floor. Like so there's a power vacuum and I would like Christian to go and like try to fill it. Okay.
Yeah,
And so that would be my answer.
I agree. No, I think the defense, him stepping up on defense would be more important than hitting the shot. But like you said, don't hesitate on the shot. He made some open one. He made what 5 threes versus the Spurs, which is amazing. I'm not relying on that every night. It would be great to see it. Superfan Emily had a question: who's better, Lou Dort or CB? OKC plans complain about Dort. I mean, I would love to have Dort's weird represent. Oh, I guess we were lagging. We might be back. I don't know what people missed, but we were just saying in case we lag during the answer, we want CB to step up his defense rather than just hit shots if we had to pick one. I think that's the bigger question. But I get that players are going to help off CB, and I think they're going to do that regardless of if he hits shots. So he needs to step up on defense because that's where a lot of the advantage could come from us competing at the highest level. But a question from Superfan Emily: Lou, Dort, or CB? I would love to have Dort's reputation
Dort's
to be able to just foul.
Defender.
Yeah,
so like even without the fouling, it's like he like stays in front of guys, if literally nothing else, right? And he's a fire hydrant, which like Christian's also strong, but like he's not a fire hydrant, so.
Yeah, and he hits like timely threes in the playoffs. It's so annoying. I don't know if it's just versus us
for a game,
or what,
which I guess was timely because it was a swing game in the series, but he took a while to get there. Yep. I would hope that Christian is a better shooter in the playoffs than Lou Dort has been. Not even by that much, just like a little bit better. That'd be great.
I hope Lou Dort shoots poorly against us, but he'll probably have at least one game like last year where he hit a bunch, and maybe CB will have one too. Do you guys have any idea why Christian's defense is so bad? He's athletic, quick. How does he improve? Yeah, he just like can't.
He's keep been guys good in front the past, and like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. The containment I think is my biggest concern, and it's not even just like he's getting screened anymore. Like he's just getting blown by one-on-one and on, in closeout situations. It's not good. It's not great, Bob, and it's like too late in the season to be like, he can work on this. It's like, nope, you need to flip a switch like yesterday.
Yeah.
Because that's where Denver's at in terms of what they need from him. I do think that his taking and making shots is what's going to determine. The argument for that being the more important thing is not the taking and making of the shots, but what it does to DA, which is keep Christian on the floor for closing instead of Tim being on the floor, which I would prefer. Christian being on the floor, I would prefer to Tim being on the floor.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, as bad as Christian's defense is, like it can in fact get worse. Like the situation can get worse. And as impactful as I think Tim can be, especially in terms of like floating Denver's offense, that's not the situation that I want him to be in. So, is CB better than KCP in 23? Hell no. What are we talking about? Obviously not.
I think
KCP in 23 was an all defense candidate. KCP and
all NBA, all defense.
KCP was all defense. Okay, he was all defense probably both years, but he wasn't going to be a candidate in 23 because Denver's defense was so bad. But he was like on it, and then even more so the following season. But obviously not. If he were, then he'd be worth the contract that he was getting.
Yeah. And like it is weird. Is it something technical? Screens are a big issue. Like he has a bigger body, and we thought, the bigger body guys are easier to get screened, right? But he's not so big that he can't figure it out. There's lots of good defenders in
this league that are, like it's been a couple years now, guy. You got to figure out a technique that works for you, and it just hasn't been there. And it's not just getting screened anymore; it's getting straight up blown by, and like in situations that are unacceptable, where it's like, again, it's not. I'm like, okay, everybody gets blown by Dylan Harper, but you should not be getting blown by Devin Vassell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think that there's something to do with the rest of the guys playing together as a unit on D to help Christian be able to be in better positions to like
he needs to be the one helping everybody else.
Gotcha.
Right.
So yeah,
like yes, it's like there's only so many like holes that like one perimeter defender can plug, but the possession often starts with him because of who he tends to be guarding. So it's not a matter of everybody else needing to help him. Like, we need him to hold up so that we don't have all these secondary breakdowns all the time elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, lots of questions about CB. Yeah. And it's not like, you know, a lot of the questions we have about him could be possibly solved by, hey, we can bench him. We can close with Pwat. We can, you know, but Pwat now has this hamstring injury. So that's not as, it's still a question. It's not as reliable. So he's really going to have to step up. Thankfully, the Nuggets, like the original starting five, like do pretty well together, of course. So, and Christian brings a lot of stuff that's not just defense. It's just we do need him to bring defense to some degree. So, and hopefully he has a good showing versus Ant, perhaps in this first round.
Yeah. All right. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode of What's in a Game. If you've made it this far, we appreciate you guys the most. Always love chatting with the chat. We had a pretty lively chat today. Goodness.
Yeah.
25 people
Thank
made it to the end of the show. You guys are freaks, I gotta say.
True basketball fans.
True basketball fans. Or drama fans. My love drama. There it is. Love drama.
Yeah, if you need an event,
shirt on.
We're here for sure.
If you like our content, please remember to click the like button, hit the subscribe button, as well as the notification bell. Follow us on all the socials. Maybe we should start like just kind of posting from the social accounts as like just like saying stuff. Just to get some engagement out there, because people are probably like, do you guys even use these accounts? Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll start posting stats from that account instead of my main. Thank you, GP of St. John. We love you too. And always remember that winning is fun and losing sucks.
Thank y'all.